Hey, hello, welcome. We're going to be doing World of Warcraft tonight. The image might look a bit frozen. That's because this game seems to not update its render when you're alt-tabbed out of it. So that will be why that is. Hopefully, now that I'm in it, it should be animating. So I'm just going to wait a moment to make sure that is happening. Otherwise, we're going to have to futz around with some things. But we're going to do World of Warcraft, and we're going to take a tour. I'm not going to do combat or anything interesting, no raids, no dungeons, even though I am starting outside of a dungeon. Yeah, okay, cool. So it is all animating and working fine. Okay. Oh boy, that was fun. Just feel free to let me know how the audio is going. And yeah, we are starting outside of a dungeon. This dungeon is, in fact, Stratholme, which I remember raiding on this very character. Now, I spent a bit of time today preparing this. Earlier tonight and a few other times during the day. I spent some time doing some preparation, so I'm going to show off some stuff, and I'll talk about this as we go on. But this is my Night Elf Rogue. I made this character back in probably August or September 2005, and she was my main through a fair chunk of vanilla. Classic World of Warcraft, and even into the first expansion, which was the Burning Crusade. And she's still one of my favourite characters to play. I think Rogues, even today, Rogue's pretty good. I was actually trying out the new Outlaw spec, because combat is no longer a thing, and combat is what this Rogue was for much of her life. Although in Burning Crusade she was an assassination rogue, because that was the better raid spec back then. Anyway, I'm going to talk about what my rogue is wearing while we go on, because I think my rogue looks really cool. She is dressed in a combination of Bloodfang and Night Stalker gear. Obviously this is all actually transmog. This is a transmog set I made up. But I actually went and farmed a bunch of this stuff, because it turns out I didn't have the Night Slayer shoulders, which are these big, well, it's not the most correct name to give them, but back when I was raiding, we called them the Night Slayer boobs. Yeah, so yeah, she had those, and I didn't have the hood either until just now. I do have Bloodfang hood. The chest is the Bloodfang... No, actually, the chest is the Night Slayer chest. Let me just check what we've got here. So, I should point out, this is a level 98 rogue. I haven't played WoW since probably the first few months of Warlords of Draenor. I haven't played Legion at all. I don't even own Legion. I basically just stopped playing, but this weekend has been a free weekend with World of Warcraft, and I thought, let's dive back in and take a look at the game. Bit of nostalgia's sake for a game I played pretty much constantly for a good 10 years or so. So that's why. Anyway, yeah, Night Slayer. Night Slayer, that's right, not Night Stalker, Night Slayer. Then my chest is, yeah, Night Slayer. It's my pants that are Bloodfang, I believe. Hang on. Bloodfang pants. And yeah, I don't have the boots for either set, so I picked a set of boots that look like they match reasonably well, and the belt's the same too. I think the belt is a belt from Burning Crusade. The swords, however, are the most interesting part, because they are, of course, chromatically tempered sword and Maladath, which are two of the swords that drop in Blackwing Lair. And they are classic swords. Now, the other thing we're not going to do tonight is fly. We're going to ride. We're going to ride all the way from here to Booty Bay. So this is Stratholme, which is one of the first dungeons I went to in WoW. Strath is a really good, was a really fun dungeon back at level 60. And this is Eastern Plaguelands. I thought we'd start our journey in Eastern Plaguelands. When I first started playing World of Warcraft, I'd already played a fair bit. Now, if we go over that way, there's... let me just remember what's over that way. That's right, there's a bunch of stuff over that way now that didn't used to be there. When I first started playing World of Warcraft, I'd been a fan of the Warcraft series. I had Warcraft 2 on my Mac. I played the crap out of that. And I had Warcraft 3 on PC, and I played that a fair bit. So I knew the story. I knew what was going on with Eastern Plaguelands. It was really cool to see this area as the aftermath of the events of Warcraft 3, the Arthas storyline in Warcraft 3. And I thought that was always a really cool touch with this game, that it had that in it. By the way, feel free to share your own World of Warcraft and anecdotes in the chat. Pardon me, because we're going to be reminiscing a fair bit about this game tonight. That's what this is all about. It's a nostalgia stream. Because I have a lot of nostalgia for this game. Like I say, I played it for well over 10 years. And for most of that time as a fairly solid, constant game. Hey, is that? No, it's not. So, these worms, there's actually a rare one that wanders around here sometimes that you can kill. I think he has a chance of dropping some forms of loot. Anyway, Eastern Plaguelands was originally one of the end game areas. You had to be level 55 or so before you could come here and quest, and it was one of the areas. It was not where I dinged this character to level 60. We'll be getting to that later, but I think my other character, which is a character we'll be looking at a bit later on, was dinged to level 60 in this area when I was leveling that character up. Normally I don't actually have a helm shown, but I decided for the purpose of this that I would have the full Bloodfang on, so we get the helm and everything. But yeah, this Night Elf Rogue that I'm playing right now is actually the first character I ever got to level 60. You can see the Death Knight thing over there. That never used to be there. The other thing that isn't here anymore, that never used to be here and then was here for a while, of course, is Naxxramas, which used to be in the sky up near Stratholme. So where are we now? We're just coming down around here. So I'm probably going to take a couple of detours. The route that I'm going to take through isn't going to take us to some of the major areas that might be worth visiting. So I'm going to do a couple of detours just to get those in. But we're not going to go to every zone in the game or every zone on the Eastern Kingdoms for this little journey. You know, I mean, we're just going to keep it nice and chill, and we're going to reminisce and talk about it. Yeah, it's Corrin's Crossing. I remember doing this. The thing I remember, the first time I came to Eastern Plaguelands, I just remembered the really dark, foreboding atmosphere this place has. You come in here from Western Plaguelands, and Western Plaguelands is a mess. There's a lot of dead things here. I'm just trying to remember if I'm going the right way. Yeah, I know. Yeah, I am. Yeah, that's the way to Tyr's Hand, which we don't really want to go to. Tyr's Hand actually is worth talking about though, because Tyr's Hand used to just be a zone full of elites, and then when they added Death Knights in the Wrath of the Lich King, Tyr's Hand became a lot more. But this area here, along this path, as we're heading sort of out of Eastern Plaguelands, along this bottom path here, is where you first encounter this area, and this place looks foreboding. You got these bats, you got this. There's a particular quest line you get here, this really sad, tragic quest line. It starts in Western Plaguelands, which we'll be going through shortly. It actually starts in Western Plaguelands, and it's basically a quest that breadcrumbs you into here. Oh yeah, I remember this. And part of that quest is these guys that you see here, the Spectral Marauders, because they're all dead. Because everything's dead here, and basically the story is of a little girl who dies. She doesn't know it. She doesn't know she's dead. And you have to help her ghost. And it is actually really legitimately sad, this whole story. In fact, I believe it involves going down this way a bit. Just a moment. I believe it involves going down this path. You do some of it down in this area down here. Darrowshire, that's it. Yeah, Darrowshire. So down here is a place called Darrowshire, and it's where you do this quest with this little girl. And as you come in here, you can hear it. The music changes, and the lighting changes. This is where you do this quest with this little girl. It's really haunting quest. It's actually one of the best quest lines in the game. I don't know if it's actually still in the game post-Cataclysm. And I probably should mention that. That obviously we're riding the post-Cataclysm world, not the pre-Cataclysm world. Maybe I'll do another one of these streams when WoW Classic comes out, because I am absolutely on board for WoW Classic. I might do another one of these streams when that comes out, and we'll take a look at that. Also, I'm going to close my quest log up, because that's just taking up screen real estate, and I should have it closed. And yeah, you can see all these. Fiona. Actually, Fiona's a different thing. Fiona is... I was noticing that Fiona's Caravan before. That's a new thing as far as I'm aware. I don't remember Fiona's Caravan at all. Oh, and these are the other things you found here. The Plague Hounds, Runts, and stuff like that. You had to spend a lot of time farming this first area and looking for stuff before you got there. But you can see like, all this yucky stuff on the tree stump, all the dead trees and everything like that. The fungus that's all over the place, particularly as you get closer and closer to Stratholme. Stratholme, I should point out is, of course, one of the most famous missions in Warcraft 3, where, of course, you have Culling of Strathhelm, where Arthas went... and the Undercroft, yes, that's right, I remember the Undercroft, yeah. Yep. So you go here, and there's quests here as well. Arthas went and murdered the citizens of Strathhelm because they were all... they'd all been infected by the Undead Plague. And the whole mission in Warcraft 3 is you in a race against time against Mal'Ganis, who's an evil demon who was the one spreading the plague at the time. Hey, there's a guy there, level 40 human. Jeez, level 40 and you're out here. Oh, but you know what? WoW has area scaling now, so you can safely come here at level 40. I mean, I wouldn't, but you can. All the mobs in this area will be level 40 to that guy now. That's really cool. I forgot that that was a thing. But that is really neat. So yeah, so where are we here? I've forgotten how long this path is. Eastern Plaguelands is actually a very large zone. And it's divided into two areas. You got the Plaguewood area up here, and then the rest of it sort of around here, and you do them kind of separately. And obviously, with WoW now, they've added the Ebonhold and Asherus and the Death Knight starting area to it as well, which is over in that side. Although, when you actually start as a Death Knight, that area is actually instanced off. So, it's there in the game in the real world. Is this Fiona? Oh, I remember Fiona. Yeah, but they've actually fleshed her out. I don't remember this at all. This was never in any of the games I played when I leveled. I think Fiona might have been, but not like this. And her caravan you can ride somewhere, as I recall, as well. Anyway, that was Eastern Plaguelands. And as I said, yeah, Culling of Strathhelm was, yeah, this really, really tough mission. Well, I wouldn't say it wasn't really one of the tougher missions in that, but it was sort of the moment that marked Arthas's downfall in that, because he's murdering what appeared to be innocent civilians, although in his mind it's perfectly fine, because of course they're all infected by the grain, the infected plague. That in itself came from this area. In fact, there's an area here called, if I point my map to it, Hearthglen. If you play Warcraft 3, you'll remember Hearthglen from Warcraft 3, because there is a mission in that area before you get to Strathhelm. So when they were setting up World of Warcraft, they had to sort of geographically relate everything together. There's a couple of places that ended up in really odd spots. Hearthglen was one of them. Hearthglen in Warcraft 3 was shown as being much further to the south of Strathhelm, whereas in this game it's actually to the west of it, just about. I'm not going to head up towards Hearthglen because it's quite the ride up there. That's quite a long path. And I should point out, actually, while we're here, I'm going to just fill out the map so that I can show you something. So, when they did Cataclysm, they actually opened up a couple of what were otherwise empty areas of the map, but there's one empty area they never opened up, and it's this area behind Eastern Plaguelands here, which is technically where Strathhelm would be sitting. And to this day, there's nothing there in World of Warcraft. They haven't put anything in, even in the modern World of Warcraft, which is a bit of a shame, maybe? Not a lot of a shame, I guess. It's just odd that even now there's still that single unfinished zone up there. I don't remember what's in it now. The one thing I do know is that Eastern Plaguelands, as part of the Cataclysm storyline, Eastern Plaguelands was sort of being resettled and regrowing. You can see that's what's the name of the town? Andahal. That's right. Andahal used to be an absolute mess. We'll head over towards Andahal just to have a look at it. Andahal used to be a mess. And in fact, Andahal, you used to have to actually ride through Andahal to get anywhere in Eastern Plaguelands, but they changed that. Andahal now is kind of still a mess, but they're rebuilding it. And I believe there is a quest line here that phases you through parts of that rebuilding process, something like that. The other thing that Andahal has, I don't know if it's still here. I'm going to write in and see, actually. Let's head into, because my memory of Andahal is that in this building in the middle of Andahal, this inn, there's a really cool character. So we're just going to head in here and see if she's still here. Because it has been many years since I've gone and looked for her. She is not. You're Rattlegore. Oh, that's where you hang out now. Okay, cool. Okay, Rattlegore used to actually patrol this whole area. The character I'm looking for is called Chromie, and she is a dragon, but she appears as a small gnome. And Chromie, Probably most people remember Chromie from what was it? They used her in a promotion for Hearthstone at one point, I think. And they added her card to Hearthstone and a couple other things. She had a cool mechanic in that game. But Chromie is one of the Bronze Drakes, who are the dragonfly in charge of time. Bronze dragonfly. There's 6 dragonflies, as I recall, and the bronze one is the one in charge of time. Or 6 primary dragonflights, anyway. Maybe it's 5. I forget now. Black, green, red, bronze, blue. Black, green, red, bronze, blue. That might be it. That might be 5 dragonflights I'm thinking of. Well, things are about to get hairy for us because we're about to enter a really interesting area. We're about to enter Tirisfal Glades. This is actually a Horde starting area, and we're going to ride through Bulwark, which is full of Lobi Horde guards now, apparently, that don't bother us at all. But now we are actually in a low-level Horde area, or what was originally a low-level Horde area. Tirisfal Glades, I really like the look of. I never leveled here because I never liked the undead. Although, actually, I think I did level a Belf through here once. I got out of the Belf starting area and decided instead of continuing on through their lands, I'd make my way down here and level here just to see what it was like. So I did level here on a Blood Elf once. I primarily play Alliance characters. I have no time for the Horde. I think their motivations are stupid, and I think people who play them have something wrong in the head. But that's just my personal opinion. As a hardcore Alliance player, I have to hate Horde players, so yeah. But no, I do play Blood Elves occasionally. I have a couple of Taurens on various servers as well, mostly just to see what the other side was like. But I never found the Horde starting areas as interesting as the Alliance starting areas. And I never really liked the Barrens as a leveling area, which I have leveled through the Barrens as a Horde player. As an Alliance player, you never have to do that, but as a Horde player, you do. Monastery. Now, that is a place we should go have a look at. It's all the way up here. The first time you come to Tirisfal Glades as an Alliance player is because you're coming up here. And the reason you're coming up here is, you can see on the map there's something labelled Scarlet Monastery. Scarlet Monastery was originally a level 30 to 40 dungeon, run by the Scarlet Crusade, who are a bunch of hyper-fanatical people who hated the undead and spent a lot of their time fighting them. And then, it turns out, huge plot twist, they were run by the undead. Basically, a whole bunch of their higher-ups had turned undead. And were maintaining this myth of them being undead. And Scarlet Monastery used to be 3 separate ways. It was back. It was one of the original games. And I remember when I first started playing World of Warcraft, Scarlet Monastery was sort of presented to me as like one of the cool, hip end-game raids. Or it sounded like almost an end-game thing. Like everyone wanted to do SM. And you had 3 wings. In fact, you have 4 wings, but no one ever did one of them. No one ever did the graveyard wing. You did cathedral, you did library, and you did... what was the other instance? There it is. There's the meeting stone for it. This is a path that's very familiar to anyone who's had to level through this area. Back before you could just instantly queue for these things. And I thought we'd go have a look in here. This is Scarlet Monastery. But I think they changed it. I think Scarlet Monastery now is just one big instance. I'm not going to go in. Oh yeah, and you had these guys who were they were originally all elites that you had to fight. But yeah, this is the Scarlet Monastery, yeah. So you have just the 2 instances now. That's right, yeah. And because they completely changed it for... I'll dive in just see. Yeah, that's right. They changed it for Pandaria. That's right. I remember now. I don't think it's a low-level dungeon anymore either, is it? You don't do it at level 30 to 40 anymore, I don't believe. Anyway, Scarlet Halls and... I forget what the other one's called, but yeah, that's Scarlet Monastery. We're not gonna do that. I just wanted to come up here for nostalgia to say, spent a lot of time running Scarlet Monastery. Scarlet Monastery is the first instance, I think, where you start to feel like you're being powerful. I'll just stealth my way out of here. where you really start to feel the growth of your character as you've come through it, because level 40 is a pretty big moment in Classic WoW, and this will be something that a lot of players will get to experience in WoW Classic when it comes out. And I'm going to call vanilla WoW. I'm going to use the term vanilla to refer to World of Warcraft before the launch of the Burning Crusade expansion. And I'm going to use the term classic to refer to the WoW Classic, the upcoming WoW Classic release. I always forget. Wonder why. Oh yeah, Scarlet Watch Post. That's right. Yeah. Which I think is a small leveling area for Horde. But yeah, WoW, vanilla WoW. You level 30 was sort of you'd gotten out of the starting areas, and you were starting to quest in areas that were not specific to your faction. Up until level 30, most areas were sort of faction specific. Like, it got less and less so. So you start, say as a human, you would start in Elwynn Forest. And then you would move from Elwynn Forest to, most likely to Westfall, was generally where you would go. If you're playing a dwarf, you would move from Dunmarogue to Loch Modan, for example, as well. And as a Horde player, I think if you're playing an undead, you would start in Tirisfal Glades, and I think you move to Silverpine Forest after that. But you could also move to the Barrens as Horde, because Horde had easier transit between those areas. But yeah, Alliance, you would go to Westfall, and Westfall was basically a level 10 to 20 area, and on a PvP server, Westfall was still Alliance controlled zone, so you couldn't PvP there. But the next zone after that would be, generally you would go to Duskwood. You could go to, as a human, you could go to the mountains. I've forgotten the name of. Anyway, while we're here, where'd all my health go? Just lost all my health all very suddenly. I completely don't know what happened there. Oh, I got hit by a Tirisfal Death Guard. I didn't even realize. Speaking of Tirisfal Death Guards, let's have a look at the Undercity. Oh boy, there's a lot of things happening here. So, because the summer festival's on, there's bonfires in every city, and you can actually come and steal the bonfires. These doors used to be closed, but when they added Blood Elves, they opened this side up so you come in here. So Undercity is an interesting zone. Anyone who's played Warcraft 3 will remember that this is actually the city of Lordaeron, and as I go in here, I should hear something really cool. Yep, there it is. Music. In this zone. This is the site of probably the single greatest cutscene in a Warcraft game. This is the throne room in Lordaeron. And if you've ever beaten the Undead campaign in Warcraft 3, the original Undead campaign, Arthas's campaign, the cutscene sees Arthas walking in here, and Arthas has become quite undead at this point. And his dad, the king, is sitting here on this throne. You can't even interact with this throne, which is a bit of a shame. And he's sitting on the throne. There's a bunch of, lords and stuff hanging around. And the king, he walks up, draws his sword, and walks up to the king. And the king says, "What are you doing, my son?" And Arthur's like, "Succeeding you." And then it cuts away, and you see the silhouette of Arthur stabbing his father and killing him right here. And the crown rolling away. It's one of the best cutscenes. I highly recommend going and looking it up on YouTube. It's one of the best cutscenes in all of video games, I think. And to this day, it really holds up incredibly well. And this is where it takes place. This was for people first coming into World of Warcraft, being able to actually be here in this throne room. If they'd been playing Warcraft 3, they came into World of Warcraft, being in this throne room would have been a huge nostalgia kick. And you see the collapsed bell. The story after that, of course, is that Arthas took over this place, and I think he was responsible for digging out the Undercity, or was it Sylvanas Windrunner? Sylvanas Windrunner, who is the undead faction leader in here, is that guy is a bit too high level for me. I'm just going to sneak my way up, because I am actually PvP flagged now. which is not great. Going in there did flag us for PvP, of course, which is something that happens. I obviously play on a PvE server, and obviously that's something that happens. Thankfully, it shouldn't be too much of a problem, but we just need to keep moving. So that's Undercity. I probably could have flown around the top of it and had a better look at it, actually, now that I think about it. But no, because there's flying guard. I think there are flying guards up there, so it was probably for the best that we didn't do that. But yeah, Undercity is the ruins of Lordaeron, and it's a huge nostalgia kick for anyone who played classic Warcraft, Warcraft 3 specifically. So yeah, and Tirisfal Glades, again, is pretty cool nostalgia click. Now, where we're heading away from Tirisfal, we're heading into a zone called Silverpine Forest, which does show up on one of the Warcraft 3 maps. Warcraft 3's early camp, that's a large thing I didn't need to see right now. Lord Hauler, level 60. Oh, that's right, this is all slightly new, isn't it? Yeah. Yeah, I remember this, because part of the Cataclysm plot was that Sylvanas was brewing like a new super plague or something like that. And they were doing all that work here. Now, in the old days, what would happen along here is that you would look out over there, and that's actually, that castle there is actually a zone you can do stuff in, as I recall. Yeah, Forsaken High Command. This area got revamped quite significantly for Cataclysm. It didn't used to be quite this wide, this road, or anything like that. So yeah, we're just moving on here a bit. So yeah, we're there. Fenris Isle, that's the name of that island, and there are quests there. I think there are quests there even as an Alliance player. You can do quests there. It's not exclusive to the Horde. Now there is an instance here that Alliance players would rarely do, but I did it a couple of times because it was slightly higher level than the Alliance instance of the Dead Mines, which is an instance in Westfall that any Alliance player would have cut their teeth on. And this, in a lot of ways, it was intended as the next step from that. It was called Shadowfang Keep, and it was basically the Horde, and specifically the Forsaken equivalent of Dead Mines. There was another instance. Where is it? Oh, that's right. There's an instance in Orgrimmar. Actually, in Orgrimmar, there's an instanced dungeon that's slightly lower level than Dead Mines, but you can do it. And I remember doing that once. A group of us managed to sneak into Orgrimmar and just run that dungeon, because you never see it as Alliance. In the same way that Horde never see the Stockades dungeon, which is in the middle of Stormwind. We're going to take a bit of a detour off the paths as we get down here as well, because there's an area that's worth talking about as we go into Cataclysm. Or as we talk about Cataclysm stuff. But yeah, in the original World of Warcraft, this road wasn't like this. It was a little bit narrower, a little bit lower, and stuff like that. It looked fine. Now, this area over here, this big purple glowing area, is also worth taking a bit of a detour to. This used to be Dalaran. And in the original... Oh, hang on. I don't remember... No, this isn't... No, hang on. No. Like, hang on. Why is there a big purple magical dome here? That's not where that's supposed to be. I'm talking, of course, about Dalaran. Now, Dalaran... We'll actually come to Dalaran from a different angle, but you can get to it through there. I'm not going to. At the moment. Shadowfang Keep is actually... you can just see over in the hills there. That's Shadowfang Keep over there. And it was... The Alliance, and I've just remembered, the Alliance did have an equivalent to Shadowfang Keep. Shadowfang Keep was slightly higher level than Dead Mines. It was probably like 18 to about 25 or so, whereas Dead Mines is about 15 to 20 in terms of levels. Now, hang on, am I going the right way? No, I'm not going the right way. I want to go back this way. We're going back this way for a reason at the moment. We're going to take a look at something that was added to the game in Cataclysm. Now, in the original World of Warcraft lore, there were a bunch of human cities, human kingdoms, effectively. There was the Kingdom of Stormwind. There was the Kingdom of Arathor. There was the Kingdom of Alterac. And there was the Kingdom of Lordaeron, which were the northern human cities. Alterac, Arathor, and Lordaeron. There was also the Kingdom of Gilneas. And Gilneas is this area down here, or will be once we get there. So, when World of Warcraft first launched, there was a big, huge wall here that blocked off an area that was completely unfinished. In Cataclysm, they finished that area, and they created Gilneas, and they added it to the game, except that it's actually really shit. And that's the truth. Gilneas is a full city zone, a full zone, that has nothing in it. It's completely empty, unfortunately. It exists in the game worlds because if you make a Worgen character, an Alliance Worgen character, you can actually play, you do actually play through a version of it as an instance. Again, like the Death Knight starting area, it's instance off. But for whatever reason, they decided to make this area exist in the game. Now, there is a reason you would go here, and that is that there's a couple of creatures, pugs and dogs and stuff that exist here that are worth looking at. But as it currently stands, this is a completely empty and unused zone. And I think that's actually kind of sad, because this should have been a new major city. This is one of the reasons to come here. If you're a hunter and you want this particular fox, this is where you find it. The Highlands fox, which is a white fox. So if you're a hunter who collects hunter pets, that's where you find that particular one. And there's also a particular type of dog, a mastiff type dog, that you can find here as well. As we go up here, you can see there's just no one here. The whole city is just completely empty. I can go in the city, I think. Yeah, that's right, because this is like the main throne room, I think. Or it's the main something anyway. Point is that it's the main thing here. It's not the throne room, it's a church actually, isn't it? Yeah. Yeah, this is Gilneas, and it's a pretty important area in the Alliance, the sort of the Alliance story. But World of Warcraft kind of made a meal of it. Unfortunately, it's one of the areas that World of Warcraft never quite got right. And of course, we can all blame the illustrious and now retired, thankfully. Gods, I've forgotten his name. The guy that did all the story stuff and everyone hated him for it. Not Jeff Kaplan, the other guy. He had Tagol and Furor. And Kaplan was Furor. Or was Kaplan Tagol? Anyway, whichever one it was the the other guy that wasn't Kaplan, who messed up the story. He's the guy that completely messed up the Draenei story and gave him to the Alliance instead of Horde, like what should have happened. That was dumb. Fun fact. So Burning Crusade, which was WoW's first expansion, was advertised heavily as introducing 2 new races to the world. And what's always been interesting about that is the races they added to the wrong faction. Draenei, who are supposed to be evil demonic creatures, were added to the Horde, should have been added to the Horde faction. Blood Elves, who are High Elves, who were betrayed by Arthas effectively, should have been added to the Alliance faction. But because a certain person forgot that this was established law, they retconned this, and all of a sudden the Alliance had Space Goats and the Horde had Blood Elves. And I'll never forgive them for that, because High Elves should have been added to the game back then. And they spent a long time. In fact, rumour was that the reason, when they announced it, they announced Blood Elves as the Horde race, and it was like, oh yeah, you know, that's cool, what's the Alliance race? And they said, we're announcing it at a later date. And we're all like, yeah, okay, I guess that's cool. Announce them at a later date, sure, go for it. And then it took months for them to announce it, because apparently they were going to add Pandaren as the Alliance race back in Burning Crusade, but they couldn't make them work. Basically, they wanted Alliance to have a cute and cuddly race, like a beast race, I guess, like how Horde have Tauren and Orcs and all those other beastly Horde races, trolls, you know, all that kind of stuff. But Alliance ended up with, instead of getting that, we ended up with goats, space goats, as they're more commonly known. And I've never quite forgiven Blizzard for making that mistake, because I would have loved to have seen Pandaren back then. In fact, I would have loved to see High Elves back then. There used to be, I don't think there is anymore, but in, oh geez, is it? No, it's in Eastern Plaguelands. There used to be the only High Elf character in the game. I am going to die. Well, we got an honourable medallion, so that's nice. Cool. I've learned a new ability, honourable medallion, nice. That was annoying. Wasn't expecting that to happen. Now, where am I and where is my body? That never used to happen. You used to be able to safely ride through there, so that's a huge problem for anyone who wants to do the journey I'm doing right now. Because you should be able to ride unimpeded from the top of the Eastern Kingdoms to the bottom, and now you can't. So there must be a way around this that I will figure out. In fact, I'm not even going to figure it out. What I'm going to do is I'm going to... Oh, jeez, I can't even safely resurrect right now. These are Dread Guards who are... What are they? They're all level 90 or so. I'm going to try and find a safe spot to resurrect. I have no safe spots. No, they're all level 30. I should be able to resurrect and immediately stealth. There. Okay. What I'll do is I'll make my way around here. Just for safety's sake. Make our way around here. And we'll come back on the other side. There we go. We should be good. So that never used to happen. You used to be able to just ride through there unimpeded. So this is a new addition that I don't remember being here. Even after Cataclysm, I don't remember this being here. Interestingly, when I first started playing Cataclysm, I was actually riding in this zone because I had the content all installed beforehand, and I was riding through this zone. Now, this is an area called Hillsbrad Foothills. And Hillsbrad Foothills is moderately infamous. It used to be 2 zones. In fact, we're going to head up. I did mention we're going to take a look at Dalaran, and we should actually go do that right now because we're right behind where it is. So I'm going to head up over here. So Dalaran is the Mage City. It's actually the other Alliance Kingdom. Or the other human kingdom. Pre-Alliance, I suppose. Because the Alliance really didn't exist. I mean, the Alliance really didn't exist until after Warcraft 3. In fact, in a lot of ways, Warcraft 3 is the story of the forging of that alliance. But originally the humans were a bunch of disparate kingdoms. Like I say, you had Arathor, you had Alterac, you had Gilneas, you had Lordaeron, and Stormwind came later. Stormwind was basically like an offshoot of one of them. I think it was an offshoot of like the Arathor kingdom maybe originally. It was an offshoot of one of them. But anyway, this is a place called Dalaran. Except it's not actually a place called Dalaran. In the original World of Warcraft, what this place was... What this place... Is that a... Huh. That's a rare spawn. Huh. Ah, well there you go. So instead of there being a smoking crater here, in the original World of Warcraft, what there was an empty flat space with nothing in it. But what there also was a big dome around this area. In fact, it looks like a blown up version of the Mage Arcane explosion spell, because that's actually what it was. And then in Wrath of the Lich King, they decided the mages were so powerful, they literally physically lifted their entire city out of the ground. I think... Not sure if you can... Oh, that's probably a little bit too far. Sorry about that. Not sure if they ever did on this side. You can actually get in and out of that crater too. It's safe to do so. I wouldn't fall down there, obviously. Yes, there it is. You can see just there. There's a little pipe there. That's like a sewage pipe from Dalaran where it's been ripped out of the ground. Hey, let's kill the blue dragon. See if it drops anything interesting. It dropped nothing. Okay, well, whatever. That's a cool rare spawn for us to kill. So yeah. Yeah, this is Dalaran. Dalaran was a big city. The Mage City. There is actually a mission. There's a couple of missions in World of Warcraft that's set in it. And of course it's where you first encounter Jaina Proudmoore when you're playing that game. Around here is ruins of Alterac, and technically somewhere in this area should be Alterac Valley, which is the PvP zone. The infamous PvP zone, but we won't go into that. Alterac was ruined, I want to say in Warcraft 2. Pretty sure, if my memory of Warcraft... Oh, and this place. So this area here, I will stop talking about this for a moment, but we'll just talk about Alterac just quickly. Alterac was the human kingdom I think it was ruined due to the events of Warcraft 2. Warcraft 2's events mostly concern, well, they still concern the Horde and the Alliance, but also they concern the events of the Black Dragonflight and Alexstrasza and a couple of characters like that all show up in it. You ever want to play Plants vs. Zombies in World of Warcraft? This is the NPC you need to speak to, and this is the place where you play it. This area here. This was added in Cataclysm. And everyone thought it was quite hilarious at the time that you could play Plants vs. Zombies in World of Warcraft. It's a really solid implementation of the game. Plays pretty well. It's very fun. And it's worth doing. You actually get one of these sunflower dudes as a pet if you successfully fight all the waves in it. And that's where that lives. Let's head not to that town. So the Sludge Fields is a new area. This didn't used to be here. This was added probably in... Oh, geez, that's a level 60 Undead Elite. Wow, okay. So that's an elite area. Okay. So the original version of South Shore had 2 towns, and for players leveling, it was usually the first... It was one of the first areas they could encounter people on the other faction. Is everything there an elite? No, they're all level 30s. But I think that might be a Horde town. Yeah, because they're all flagged for PvP, so that's a Horde town. Let's not go in there. And so Alliance had a town called South Shore, which I'll head to shortly, and Horde had a town called Taran Mill. And in the early days of World of Warcraft, because this was an area where Horde and Alliance mixed for the first time, particularly on PvP servers, you would get a lot of ganking. So a high level Horde might be riding through, see a low level Alliance, and they just walk up to them and kill them straight off. But this created, hilariously enough, look at that gorgeous red tree, I never noticed that before. This created, hilariously enough, a cycle of violence. And so what the Alliance guy would do then would he'd mention in the chat, in the Alliance general chat, hey, some Horde guy just whacked me off. Can some high level Alliance guy go whack him off? Whoa, he's... Oh, right, yeah, he's new. Let's see if he drops cool loot. Yeah, and the Horde guys would be like, oh, hey, the Alliance wants a fight, we're going to have a fight, and then within about 30 minutes you would have basically every high-level Horde in the Alliance fighting each other in this one zone, which would actually crash servers. Wow! Did you see that? Wow! Didn't expect that to happen. He didn't drop anything, but he is skinnable because he's a Yeti, and Yeti is one of the few humanoid types that can be skinned. They may in fact be the only humanoid type that can be skinned. We keep going up that way, we'll head into... in fact, I may as well go up there just to show... Oh, hang on, is the entrance... no, it's up there. I may as well go up here now just to show you guys the entrance to Alterac Valley, and if you keep going up here, you'll end up in the Alterac Mountains, which used to be a separate zone, but they were merged into... yeah, and this is the actual entrance portal to the Alterac Valley PvP battleground. You would almost never enter it that way, and of course, yeah, there's a quest there if you start Storm Pikes, because these are the Storm Pikes. But Alterac is just up there, so that's where that is. And Alterac Valley is... Wow, he respawns super fast. I killed him. Like, I guess he's not a rare or anything like that, but boy, that was a fast respawn. Oh wow, they actually attack the... Ah, the Yetis will actually fight the... Oh, I've never seen this before, that's really cool. Those tigers are going after the deer, and the Yetis are going after the tigers. Is that poisoned? No, he's just green for some reason. No, he's got a... Oh no, he's stalking prey. Okay, yeah, okay, I have never noticed that before. So yeah, Taran Mill's here and South Shore is here, and this area was basically an open PvP area before the battlegrounds existed, and even afterwards, a lot of the time it would still happen. I remember when I used to play that it would happen sometimes. Unfortunately, one of the things they decided to do in Cataclysm was destroy South Shore, which sucks. It really does suck. I'm really not happy that they got rid of South Shore. because it was a good alliance area, but now it's all been, yeah, taken over and ruined by the Horde. I think as you level up, there are quests you can do in here. Maybe I'm wrong about that though, because I'm just seeing some Horde NPCs here, so maybe it's only Horde the quest here now. And I think it's a crying shame they destroyed South Shore. It was a nice area, nice little town, especially as an alliance first sort of making their way into the northern parts of the ground. Because this was the gateway to Alterac. It was the gateway to places like the Hinterlands. Because this area would have been was it a 20 to 30 area? Yeah, 20 to 30 area, I think, was South Shore. In theory, it was an alternative place to go if you didn't want to go to Duskwood. I was going to say Stranglethorn, but that's 30 to 40 area. But as a dwarf, you could come here instead of going to Duskwood, I guess. But yeah, this is, let me take a drink. What do we call this area? Hillsbrad. That's right, it's Hillsbrad, isn't it? Yeah. I keep forgetting it now. I think I in my head always just called this the area with South Shore in it, but yeah, it is Hillsbrad. But there is a lot to do here. Like this and Alterac, I'm not surprised they merged Alterac Mountains and this into a single zone, because there wasn't a huge amount to do in either area. I think it does kind of suck that this is now basically purely a Horde zone, though. I think that was a bit of a stupid decision, because it means Alliance miss out on one of the nicer zones in the game, particularly early leveling. And this keep here is actually somewhat significant. Durnhold Keep has some lore significance. It's where Thrall, the former Horde leader and I suppose founder of the Horde in a lot of ways. Well, no, he wasn't the founder, because that was what's his name? Grommash, wasn't it? Was it Grommash? Anyway, it was one of those guys. And Thrall was the guy that succeeded him when he died in Warcraft 3. But yeah, and it's just kind of sad that's not a zone. But Durnhold is where Thrall was being kept, and then he escaped. And there's a Caverns of Time instance where you can actually help him escape, if you so desire. So that was, and you see the big huge wall there too, which locks that area off. That's always been there. This is the Arathi Highlands. It's where the Arathor Kingdom would have been. In fact, Arathor's capital is this building over here. Or this was the capital city of Arathor, this area over here. There actually isn't a lot of reason to go here these days. You usually got a few quests here. Maybe this was the 20 to 30 area I'm talking about. Yeah, this is a level 30 area these days. As a human leveling up, there was never a good reason. This is Stromgarde Keep, that's right. But you needed to come here. There was a reason to come here. There was a quest that took you here, and you had to farm a bunch of guys for ages and ages to find a thing that they would drop. I forget what the quest was for off the top of my head, but I remember coming here and doing a quest that I had to farm a bunch of guys and thinking that Stromgarde should have been a lot more than it really was. But yeah, which is a bit of a shame. But I was never a big fan of Arathi Highlands. There isn't a whole lot to do here. There never used to be. You would generally head to Hammerfall, which is the Horde town here, if you're a Horde, and there were some quests out of there. But Alliance had Refuge Point, and there wasn't a lot to do in Refuge Point. I'm going to minimise that map again now. I think the only other thing you did here was... Oh, no, because that's... where am I? Oh yeah. The one other reason you would have to come here is because if you go up this road, and we'll do that now just so we can see it. You probably saw it on the sign there because I moused over it. If you go up this road, there's a tunnel through these mountains, and that leads to another zone that is a Horde Alliance zone. It's about a 40 to 50 area called Hinterlands. Oh, and that's right, this area has like the Circle of West Binding and the Circle of East Binding, and I think there's an ogre settlement over there. Bouldergore is an ogre settlement. And yeah, this gateway, I'm not going to go all the way up there, but that gateway leads to the Hinterlands, which is actually one of the few zones we don't go through in this area, because Hinterlands kind of a dead end. There's no access to... The only way to get to it is through there. I don't believe it's accessible... I'm going to actually check that. I don't believe it's accessible, but it does have this area, Seradane, and I'm going to talk about this. We're going to go through another area that's similar to Seradane, or has one of the things that Seradane has in it later on. But Seradane has one of the 4 Emerald Dream portals that are scattered all over the world. And in vanilla, the Emerald Dream portals would spawn every so often. They would spawn a raid boss, and there were 4 different raid dragons, the Emerald Dragons, that could come out. I forget all their names. Emerus. I remember Emerus was one of them, and I forget the other ones. If anyone knows in chat, feel free to mention. But yeah, there were 4 raid dragons that would come out, and you needed a 40-man raid to beat them, and they were fairly tough. They were basically tuned to be sort of mid range between Molten Core and Blackwing Lair, and they were added to the game in a sense, I guess, to tide people over after Blackwing Lair came out, or sort of. Yeah, no, they were added after Blackwing Lair, so they were kind of designed for raiders who had some MC and some BWL Lair gear. Sorry, and yeah, and they were added, and then they added a raid that was intended as a sort of pre-Molten Core raid, which was the 20-man. Was it 20 or 25 originally? Yeah, it was 20. A raid called Zul'Gurub, which was added in Stranglethorn Vale. Zul'Gurub was actually originally intended to be one of the big raid areas in the game, and then they scaled back their plans for it. But the actual zone existed in the game long before it became a raid. This is Thandol Span. It links because if you've ever looked at a map of Eastern Kingdoms, you will notice there's actually a gap between this northern area, which is Lordaeron, and this southern area, which is actually technically also called Azeroth. Except this bit in the middle has a different name. It's not... No, it's not Khazmodan, is it? Yeah, it is, Khazmodan. So, Eastern Kingdoms, despite its name, is actually... And I'll break this down. Eastern Kingdoms actually comprises 3 sort of subcontinents, I guess. The first one is this upper area, which used to be referred to all of as Lordaeron, even though it actually had a bunch of other stuff, and Lordaeron was only this area here, really. Then there's this area here, which is called Khazmodan, and it's where Ironforge is. It's basically the Dwarven areas, Khazmodan. And then this southern area, which we know now more or less as the Kingdom of Stormwind, is one of the 3 things in World of Warcraft that can technically be called Azeroth. And in the original Warcraft game, that was the area referred to as Azeroth, was just that southern area of Eastern Kingdoms, the area around Stormwind. Because Stormwind, of course, was the first named city in the Warcraft game, because it was the city in the original Warcraft. Even though technically Stormwind is younger than the human kingdoms to the north. I believe I'm getting my lore right on all this. Anyway, this is the wetlands, and if you've ever been a Night Elf, you're familiar with having to run through this area at level 10 so that you can get all the way down to Westfall, so that you don't have to level in frickin' what's the name of the zone? I've forgotten the name of the zone. Darkshore, that's it. Yes, Darkshore. So if you go that way, you'll end up at Menethil Harbour, which was actually flooded and damaged and destroyed in Cataclysm. Unfortunately, but otherwise, yeah. Also, if you go this way, what used to happen as you went up here is you would come to an area that was all blocked off and not really finished, right? And it's this area on this map. And it was not really finished and blocked off or anything like that, but it existed. And it was called Grim Batol, and it was going to be one of the raids that they would add to the game. They ended up never adding Grim Batol to the game, and what ended up happening instead was it got added as part of Cataclysm, and it was actually a really fun 5-man dungeon. I remember spending a lot of time going through Grim Batol. Lore-wise, Grim Batol is important because it's where Alexstrasza was basically imprisoned, I think, by Deathwing in Grim Batol. I think that's what happened. She ended up being like locked up in Grim Batol for a while, and all sorts of nasty stuff happened. Deathwing wasn't a particularly nice guy. Glad he's dead, lore-wise. Although we're running through a version of the world where technically he's just destroyed it all and we're still here. This area here got flooded because the dam wall that's supposed to be up there at the top of these hills that we're heading towards got broken, and that is the dam wall into another zone. What used to be there was a wall and a bunch of other stuff, but they decided that Deathwing would break that up, and there's a cave over there too. That's neat. I don't remember there being a cave there. Still. So, because of the route, I've chosen to go through the world with one of the zones we're going to miss out on seeing actually is Ironforge, the dwarf city. I suppose I could take a detour. If people want me to take a detour, let me know and I'll take a detour there. We're heading up through an area called Dun Elgaz, and anyone who played a dwarf or anyone who's been a night elf or had to run through the wetlands remembers this as being the series of tunnels that you have to run between the wetlands and the next zone we'll be going into, which is Loch Modan. And anyone who used to have a mount in Vanilla will also remember that every time you entered these tunnels, you would get dismounted. It wasn't until I don't know. I don't even know when the change was made. Whether it was in Cataclysm or whether it was before Cataclysm or even after Cataclysm. But yeah, at some point they made a change so that this didn't happen. And the other interesting thing with those tunnels too is they technically hide a bit of loading. Like, one of the really amazing things technologically that World of Warcraft did back when it came out in 2004, and it's worth pointing out, when World of Warcraft launched, it had to run on computers that were still running Windows 98. And in fact, the early versions of the game are compatible with Windows 98. But one of the really amazing things that they managed to do with World of Warcraft when it first launched was they managed to make the world very seamless in terms of loading. You only ever saw load screens when you were entering a dungeon or an instance or loading into the game for the first time. But otherwise, and you've probably noticed this as we've been travelling, of course, we don't see any loading screens at all. The only other loading screen you'll see is when you're transferring between the two continents in classic World of Warcraft. So yeah, where are we now? We're in Loch Modan. This used to be a huge lake, but then Deathwing went and wrecked it for everyone, so it's not a huge lake anymore. But otherwise, this area hasn't changed a lot. Thelsimar's still there. Valley of Kings is still there. South Pass Gate is still there. This is an area we're not going to, but this is Dun Morog, and I'll bring it up on the map now just so we can talk about it a little bit. Ironforge, of course, capital city of the dwarves, big round city, has a similar, not the same layout, but sort of is circular in the same way that Undercity, which I don't think I ever showed the map for Undercity, but this is what Undercity looks like. And if you're in Alliance, this sewer entry, and that actually opens out onto a place in Tiraswell Gates. If you're Alliance and you want to sneak into it, specifically so that you can, harass Lady Sylvanas all the way down there, this is your optimal way for doing that. But yeah, Ironforge is also a big round layout city. But we're not going into Dun Morog because Dun Morog is another zone like Hinterlands where it's a dead end zone. Interestingly, you might notice that there are these two areas here, and that's because Dun Morog is unique among all the starting zones in that it actually has two starting zones in it. It has one for dwarves, which is this one, and it has the one for gnomes, which is this one. And I don't think any other zone... Oh, maybe... Hang on. Yeah, no, maybe Durotar does. Yeah, because Durotar has the Echo Isles and the Valley of Trials. So yeah, no, Horde and the Alliance do get one zone that shares two races starting zones. So there you go. We're not going to Dun Morog. And as much as I'd love to go to Ironforge and we could skip through the Deep Run tram to Stormwind, I've got a different plan for our little journey here. And if you're wondering what all these things are that you've been seeing around as I've been racing through, it's because the Summer Festival, the Fire Festival, is on at the moment, and that's part of that. That's a very long-running event in World of Warcraft. So, yeah. Anyway, and that is the Thelsimar just there. And if I go... If we keep going down, there's a road that comes off to the right, and that will lead into Dun Morog and, of course, Ironforge. But we're not going that way. We're going further south. We're just going to proceed a long way south. I've got a couple of things that are going to make zigzagging around a little bit fun. But for the most part, we're fairly deep in at this point. Okay, so the road I was talking about is, yeah, just down here. You get these huge carved statues as you come down here, which look great. This area is called Valley of Kings, and it's part of the Dwarven area. So if you go up through there, that will lead you into Dunmorogue, and we're going this way, which will lead us not into Dunmorogue. It will lead us into another zone. A good fun zone. There's a couple of ways we can go, actually, from where we're heading now. Oh, hang on, I've just realised that this has changed since the last time I was here, and I'm not sure if we can still safely get through, but we'll find out. We'll find out. It is moderately possible that Deathwing has wrecked this for us. Let's find out. Oh, actually, we're going a completely different place. Oh, right, yeah, no. For some reason I thought I was heading into Badlands, which you can get to from Loch Modan, but it's by going a different direction. I forget where you go. It used to be around here somewhere, but this has all sort of busted it all up, so I don't know exactly where it is now. So we'll see. Anyway, we're heading now into Searing Gorge, which is one of two zones that I think is really interesting. I have a bit of a relationship with Searing Gorge. It was when I was living this particular character. I was in Searing Gorge one day, and I was actually being ganked by a high-level horde, and having to sort of deal with that. But no, I wasn't being ganked. I'd had a problem with a high-level horde, but there was another high-level horde wandering around, and he was helping me kill enemies. And by helping, I mean, why is that? Oh, right, the spider's chasing the chicken. Spider got the chicken. Well, sometimes that has to happen. Didn't know they could do that. That's cool. Anyway, so this is Searing Gorge. Searing Gorge is a huge zone. We can go into Badlands from here if we want. We can come around and do that. Not sure we'll go into Badlands because, again, it's a bit of a dead-end area. But you used to be able to go through Badlands and into... No, you didn't used to go that way. We're going to go this way, and there's a particularly good reason for this. So Searing Gorge, on the map, looks like a fairly small zone, but a lot of this zone is actually underground. Or below surface level. You can see this huge area here that's been carved out, and all these caves and stuff. There's huge areas all under that that you go through in Searing Gorge. It's really cool area. And it never used to have a huge amount of things to do, but now it kind of does have a bit more to do than it used to. Gotta make sure I'm going on the right road. Yeah, we are. And you got these guys around. The main story here is that this area's all been blasted. You can see this big, huge mountain in the distance there. That is Blackrock Mountain. It is one of the most important places in World of Warcraft. I'm going to kill you just to save that bird some trouble. It is one of the most important places in World of Warcraft. And I'll explain why as we get to it, because we're going to go right through Blackwing Mountain. Blackrock. I've given it away why it's important. But yeah, is this the right way? No, it is not. I'm actually off the path. But yeah, Searing Gorge is an area controlled by the Dark Iron Dwarves, who are a faction of dwarves who decided that it would be really cool if they could raise the ancient Fire Lord Ragnaros. So they did that. And it didn't end well for them, and basically Ragnaros basically blew up all of their area, which was Searing Gorge, and the other zone we're going to once we get through the other side of here, which is Burning Steps, which we'll come to shortly. But Searing Gorge was sort of the northern side, and because basically Blackrock Mountain is their Iron Forge. And anyone who played Vanilla WoW and got to level 60 in Vanilla WoW will be very familiar with Blackrock Mountain, because Blackrock Mountain is home to not one, not two, not three, not even four, but 5 dungeon and raid zones. So let's talk about Blackrock Mountain, because this place is huge, and I'm actually gonna get my flying mount out so we can fly around. You used to not be able to fly in here, and then they changed that at some point. So so let's start at the bottom, because the bottom's actually where you first go. To get down here normally, you had to run across this chain here onto this surface here. You can see the summoning stone for Blackrock Depths there. Out, down and around, down this chain, and then to get Blackrock Depths, you had to go through that door, And that might look like an unassuming door, but let me go through it and show you what's there, alright? Because even though this looks like an unassuming door, you have to go through all of this area here, and then around over that way, I think. And that's when you get to the Blackrock Depths instance portal. It's miles away. And you can't mount in here either. But the other thing is, originally, when the game first came out, or when the raid first came out, when Molten Core first came out, its instance portal is inside Blackrock Depths. So you have to come all the way down here with your 40-man raid, through Blackrock Depths, into where the Molten Core instance portal was, and into the instance portal. And then they added an attunement quest you could do, so that what you could originally do was just jump through this window. This guy was here, but originally he didn't teleport you to, but later they changed it so that he would just teleport you to. But what you had to do was, he would have a quest, and you would go into Blackrock Depths, and you would do his quest by finding an item that was right near the instance portal to Molten Core. And then once you'd found that instance portal, that item, you could bring it back to him, and he'd be all like, "Oh, okay, well, you've proven your worth. You can just, oh yeah, look at this cool dwarf statue that you never see if you played the game normally, because you would never get up here because you couldn't fly, and so you'd only ever see it from like a ground angle, like down here." Anyway, yeah. So that's where 2 of the instances are. The other 3 are just over here, and they've actually changed this in Cataclysm, I believe. Oh, and actually, there's 6 instances in here now, because not only is there the 5 I was talking about, there's a 6th one. So, I'm a rogue, and I was a rogue with a very special talent back in Vanilla World of Warcraft. And back in Vanilla World of Warcraft, this door here had an instance portal attached to it, and you would walk in, and this would be Blackrock Spire. And Blackrock Spire was a really strange zone, because it was actually... Oh, and Blackrock Mountain has its own... it has its own map now too, which it never used to have, by the way. So this is new. And necessary. So, Blackrock Spire used to be a single instance with effectively 2 separate dungeons in it. You had Upper Blackrock Spire and Lower Blackrock Spire. Lower Blackrock Spire was the lower level of the 2 dungeons, and it would pretty much start in this area here. You can see that's actually the instance portal for it there. Oh, this is neat. I've never seen that before. And Lower Blackrock Spire was worth running for a couple of reasons. It had, you needed to do it for Blackwing Lair attunement, you needed to do it for a couple of other things. Upper Blackrock Spire was intended as a sort of Babby's first raid, I guess is the best way to say it. It was designed as a 10-man dungeon, although back in the day you could actually do it with 15 men, and apparently originally you could do it with 40 men. But yeah, you could do it as either a 15 or later a 10-man dungeon, and it was designed basically as a sort of simple raid for players to do. I think now it's just a 5-man dungeon. But Upper Blackrock Spire is actually a dungeon I spent a lot of my time at level 60 before I started raiding going through. The problem with Upper Blackrock Spire was that you couldn't enter it unless someone in your party had the UBRS key. We called it Ubers or UBRS. And the UBRS key was actually a fairly involved quest. You had to do LBRS and a couple other things to get it, and I actually managed to go through and get it, and what that meant was that I could make a living of being invited to people's groups, coming up here, standing about here, waiting for a bunch of braziers on that staircase that you can see behind the instance portal there to light up. They're not there anymore, but they used to be. To light up, and then that door at the top there would open up, and then they could go through. And it was often a really good way to get me into Upper Blackrock Spire, because I had the UBRS key. And I did end up... the other thing that happens in Upper Blackrock Spire is that you get access to the full, what's known as the dungeon set, which was basically a blue item set that was designed as basically your first sort of tier, in a way. Like World of Warcraft refers to its dungeon sets as tiers. So there's tiers, tier 1, tier 2, tier 3. I think they're up to like tier 15 or tier 16 these days. But back then you had that would have been tier 0, because it was the set you tried to get before you did before you did Molten Core. And I mentioned before, Molten Core's instance portal was inside Blackrock Depths. Well, in Upper Blackrock Spire, there was also an instance portal that later in the game's life, a bit further into vanilla, opened up into Blackwing Lair, the game's second main 40-man raid. And once again, they added an attunement quest that you could do by killing the boss of Upper Blackrock Spire and a couple other things. You could do an attunement quest. You talk to a guy who was here, and then you would touch this, and it would let you into Blackwing Lair. And that was how you did Blackwing Lair. Now, am I going to be able to safely fall here? I cannot even jump through that gap. The other interesting thing about this area was that the way you're supposed to get in here is the way nobody ever got in here. So you're supposed to get in here by coming up those stairs, and there's a pathway down there, but you could also get in here. It's not here now, but it used to be possible. Whoa. That's fine. It used to be possible to get in there a different way. But yeah, anyway, so Upper Blackrock Spire and Lower Blackrock Spire effectively count as two separate dungeons. You had Molten Core, you had Blackrock Depths, so there's your 4, plus Blackwing Lair, which was also there, which is 5. Yeah, this is the actual area you had to go through, and to get up there you would have to go there, but there was another way to get up there. I forget exactly how. Maybe we just got summoned by warlocks all the time. I forget. But yeah, you could do all that stuff, and that was really cool. I loved Upper Blackrock Spire. I think it was one of the best dungeons Blizzard ever made. And I spent a lot of time doing it. I got my full dungeon set. In fact, I had the 2 swords I was going to rock tonight on my character instead of these 2 before I changed my mind. I was going to rock transmogs for the Delrend Tribal Guardian and what's the other Delrend sword? Delrend's a really cool sword, and in fact, there's a whole Delrend himself, the character that there's an encounter in Upper Blackrock Spire where you fight. It's basically this big sort of arena style encounter that you fight, and Delrend is the guy in charge of it, and Lord Victor Nefarious, who is the final boss of Blackwing Lair under his more well-known name Nefarian. Is just sitting there watching, and there's a whole audience, a whole crowd of like Horde soldiers comes in. And they sit on the other side in seats and all this kind of stuff. And one of the things that could happen in this particular encounter, in the Delrend encounter, was that if you happen to be, I don't know, a mage or a rogue or a character with, not a rogue, a hunter or a character with some kind of ranged attack, and you weren't quite careful with where you were pressing the tab key to target an enemy, what could happen is that you can end up with an errant shot going into that crowd. This would aggro about 40 elites who would then come and join the fight and kill you all. And I've seen that happen on multiple occasions, and possibly on one occasion I was the one who accidentally sent an errant fireball into that crowd, and I owned up to it immediately, of course. But yeah, I think that encounter's been changed so that can't happen anymore. But yeah, it used to be quite the funny thing to do. And yeah, that encounter was always good fun, and you had a couple other really cool bosses. The final area in there, I forget the final boss's name, but where you fought the final area was really cool. This zone is not one of the better zones in the game. It's kind of late 40s, early 50s zone. I think I'm going the right way. Yeah, the path kind of disappears here. Oh, that's right. They changed this area now because, of course, there's this thing here, which I'm not even going to explain what that's about. But yeah, there's actually 2 exits to this zone, which there never used to be, and this zone's all. This is actually where the Dark Iron Dwarves. This was kind of their area, alongside Searing Gorge. And when Ragnaros came and corrupted them all, they went a bit nuts. But there's actually a city here, Ruins of Thoresen, which Thoresen is not only the name of their king, it was also their capital city. Thoresen had a bit of an ego, I guess. But yeah, this is predominantly an alliance zone. In fact, no, I cannot. Okay, I'm not going to do that then. But yeah, that's Blackrock Mountain and Blackrock Spire, and Ubers, and Ulbers, and MC, and BRD, and BWL. And in Cataclysm, they had another raid to that area. You actually have to get up around the other side of Blackrock Mountain. You actually fly up onto an area that's basically the real world area where you fight the final boss of Blackwing Lair. Is actually a real world area you can get to on the side of Blackrock Mountain without being in the dungeon. Speaking of mountains, we're now in the Red Ridge Mountains, and this is a fun and interesting place if you're an Alliance player. But yeah, there's now there is a raid called Blackrock Descent, and it also features a Nefarian fight. And I think I've done Blackrock Descent once, Blackwing Descent once ever. I don't remember much about it. I wasn't raiding too heavily during Cataclysm. Mostly because they didn't have Looking for Raid, and I wasn't in a guild that raided regularly back then. So yeah, I didn't do much raiding back in the Cataclysm era until Looking for Raid came out, and you could just like do Raid Finder. That was good fun. That's what let me experience some of the lead raids like Ulduar, not Ulduar. It's what let me experience. God, what was the raid? Dragon's End. Because I think it was the first raid they did where they did it. Hey, it's Lakeshire. It's an area that's very familiar to anyone who's ever leveled an Alliance character, particularly a human. This is... I didn't mind this area, Red Ridge Mountains. It's an okay zone. It doesn't have a huge amount in it. One of the great jokes about the Red Ridge Mountains, though, was that for years after World of Warcraft, between Vanilla and Cataclysm, this bridge was under repair, and they made a very big point that in Cataclysm this bridge would finally be finished, which they very much finished. So that was cool. So Red Ridge Mountains has a couple of interesting things. There's actually a few areas over this way. There's the Tower of Ilgalar and Stonewatch, which are they used to be zones you had to fight through. They were full of elites and stuff, but I think they're a bit different now. And I think there's even a questing hub out that way. They fleshed this area out quite a lot, and there's even a rare dragon. Let's go say hi to, what's his name? Snarlflare. Let's go say hi to him. Just have to get on a flying mount because I don't want to deal with coming up here and yeah. Good night. Didn't drop anything. Damn you. And the annoying part is if I want to skin him, I'm going to have to do that and then skin him. And he drops that leather. What a useless dragon. What a completely pointless rare spawn that guy was. So, rare spawns, just in case you're wondering how I'm noticing that they're rare spawns, they have a silver dragon around their portraits. I think he's despawned now, so I can't show it. But when I click on his enemy portrait, there'll be like a silver dragon around it. And you can identify the type of enemy something is by their portrait. Basically, a regular enemy has nothing around their portrait, so that guy's a critter. But regular enemies look the same, they just don't have the yellow, they have the red. Rare mobs have a silver dragon. Rare elite mobs, which is also a thing, have a what is it the rare elite mobs have? Okay, so there's two paths we can go here. Just before I get back to that, we can go this way into Elwyn and Stormwind and around to Westfall, or we can go south into Duskwood. Now I feel like what I'm going to do is a big loop around here because I want to show all these things off. I want to be all this way, so we're not taking the most efficient path down, or maybe we should. Yeah, I think what we will do is a big lap because this actually makes more sense. So we're going to come back around here soon, but we're going to go through Duskwood first and come back, and we'll actually do a big loop around and come back this way. So we'll see this area twice, which is fine. Oh, that spider! I used to hate that spider when I was riding through here as a lobby. But I've aggroed it even now. It's a level 61 spider now because of my level. So yeah, if you're wondering why all the enemies are like high level in this low level area, it's because enemies scale with your level across the game now. But they do cap out. So for old world enemies, they cap out at level 60. Just one moment. yeah, they cap out at level 60, but we're going to do a big loop around here, and then we're going to come up the other side. This is Duskwood. This is an Alliance-ish leveling area. It's the first Alliance leveling area that, on a PvP server, will flag you for PvP for entering as an Alliance player. So you do get Horde here, and sometimes the Horde will just come and troll everyone in Duskwood, in the main town here, which is a place called Darkshire. But otherwise, you know, they're fine. They wander around. This area is also the first area you start really encountering the effects of the undead plague. There's a couple of interesting places here. But the main thing Duskwood has is that kind of classic horror vibe to it, I guess, the best way to say it. You might notice there's actually a road that goes up there, and there's a road that goes off the side of the map, and it goes to a zone we're not going to be looking at today. It goes to this area, Deadwind Pass, which has, in fact, you know what, let's go down there. We are going to go that way. We're going to take a detour. I said that there'd be some detours, and this is going to be a fairly lengthy one, but we are going to do it. Welcome to Darkshire, which used to be called something else before all the bad stuff happened around here that made this place like really dark and stuff. It used to be called something else. Now, I'm going into here because there is one of my favourite pop culture references in the game here, and it's not the guy named for a member of The Who. Cyril Von Indy, I think, might be named for someone as well. No, the people I'm talking about are these two characters here. So you have Ambassador Berrybuck and Councilman Mill Stipe. Now, if you're as much of a rock nerd as I am, the moment you walked in here, you would have absolutely just squeed in delight, because of course those names, Berrybuck and Mill Stipe, are the names of the members of REM: Bill Berry, Mike Mills, Michael Stipe, and Peter Buck. And that's where these surnames come from. It's one of my favourite pop culture references in the game, not only because I'm a huge fan of REM, but because it's a really sort of really subtle reference, I think. Like, it doesn't beat you on the head about it. Like, if you know those names, you'll know. I seem to recall there was another one here somewhere as well, but I forget where. I think Roger Fraser might be, and Lattimore. Lattimore is, actually, she has a whole quest line related to her family that you can do as you level up. We're going to head this way first, because I want to go to a place, and it's not really a place that relates to Vanilla WoW, but it does relate to Burning Crusade and an area that I spent a lot of time in. We're just going to have a bit of a fly around it and a look, and then we're going to come back to Duskwood, so... In fact, now that I think about it, I could have used the flight path here to get there, but no flying. Except for when we do. Except for when I do. This is Deadwind Pass. This zone is, I believe, even today, completely unused. On the other side of Deadwind Pass, if you keep going, well, we're not even in Deadwind Pass yet, but if you keep going through Deadwind Pass on the other side, wow, they have level 98 enemies here. Wow, everything here is actually leveled to me now. Is that true? Hang on a second. I can't... It says 55 to 56. Huh. These guys are all level 98. They're scaled to my level, those Restless Spirits. Anyway, a long time ago, back in Burning Crusade, you had to ride your way down through here. And the reason you had to ride down through here was because they didn't have a flight point at Karajan. So the nearest flight point was Duskwood. What? The horrors of the past will be your undoing. What? That's new. I've never seen that before. I don't remember that being here. I just wanted to look at Karajan. What? This could be trouble. I don't know. I've never seen this before. I didn't know. What the hell? Oh, you're a Horde person. You're a Horde person I shouldn't mess with. Good thing I'm not flagged for PvP. You're just a bird. Okay. So, Karajan was a 10-man raid that was added in Burning Crusade, but it existed in the game before then. It existed since the beginning of World of Warcraft. Look at the spooky faces on the trees. And... oh, you're a level 98. This might be an area that it would be smart to stealth in. There used to be a bunch of ogres over here too, as I recall. Yeah, there they are there. But we need to go, I think we need to go this way. No, not this way, although we can go this way. There it is there, this is Karajan. I'm going to break out my flying mount right now. Except apparently I'm not, because I've got to deal with this guy. Hang on a second, let me deal with a guy who's actually going to be a challenge. Let's take this guy down too while we're here. Okay, did he drop anything worth? He dropped some money. And he dropped something else too. I didn't loot. Oh, okay, well, whatever. Whatever, let me get out my flying mount, because we're just going to have a bit of a fly around Karajan for the moment. So Karajan is a level 70 raid, and there's apparently a couple of Horde guys here who are going to do the top half of it. That portal there actually leads through half of it. These people never used to be here, these Kirin mages. I don't remember these people being here at all. So that's new to me, because they weren't here when I was here. There's a bunch of Horde people doing this raid right now. But the main entrance to Karajan is actually this gate here. That leads you into a level 70 targeted 10-man raid. And you used to have to ride down this area here. There is a flight path here somewhere now, as I recall. I forget exactly where. But there didn't used to be. And there's actually, yeah, that's right. There's this area here. There's a couple of weird areas around this area too. And you could quest down here. There used to be quests and stuff in here. Not Karajan related. They were actually level 60 quests. You could actually do them before Karajan was opened. I forget where you got them from. I think you could just come here. But this was never a quest hub. It was just like a town around Karajan. And then they made Karajan a thing. This is weird to me because Horde, non-hostile Horde never used to be flagged differently. That's a really cool transmog set she's rocking. She's a demon hunter. Maybe that's not a transmog set. I don't know. I don't own Legion, so I don't know anything about demon hunters. So I'm not going to go into Karajan, but I'm going to talk about some of the features we can see from the outside of Karajan. And one of them is this area here, which when you go through and do the raid is a boss battle. Really complex and annoying boss battle that you can do out there. There is this area here that you can climb up. But inside Karajan, as you climb up, this area sort of disappears into another dimension. You never actually get to this top part. It all sort of breaks up and disappears into its own dimension, because Karajan, being magical, it is in fact the tower of... oh my god, I've forgotten his name. Medivh, the Tower of Medivh. This is an alternative side entrance into Karajan. Once you beat an encounter, I think it's the stage encounter inside Karajan, it unlocks access to that gate so that you can continue the raid from there instead of having to walk all the way up. But there's something else weird in this town that I'm going to show if I can get to it. This area here, this is a very strange area. Now, you used to be able to get inside the place I'm looking for here, but they blocked it off with these barriers. And it used to be possible... And not only have they blocked it off with these barriers, they've actually put another barrier there to really block this off. But there's a whole zone here that you can't get into anymore. It used to be possible if you were dead, you could just phase through these barriers and then keep walking through there, but I doubt that's possible anymore. Because that's how I found the place anyway. The trick essentially was to lose your body about here and then revive on the other side, and you could explore it at your leisure. And it leads to an area called the Upside Down Sinners, and the whole area is meant to be the bottom of Karajan, effectively. And I forget exactly. Man, there's so much about this game that I forget over the years. Oh, the other thing I remember, there used to be a griffin roost up here somewhere. Might have been here. There was an unused griffin roost here. It wasn't the flight path in, but there used to be yeah, it was on here. There used to be an unused griffin roost. But this area's all been redone. Even since like Cataclysm. I feel like this area's been redone. I'm certain there was a flight path here at one point. It's possible they've gotten rid of it now, or it's possible it was actually back around over here, maybe. This seems like a really strange place to put that flight point. Okay. Oh, you're a pet trainer. Yeah, okay. There was a flight path into Karajan at some point. That is a dragon that wants to harm me a lot. Yeah, I'm certain the flight path was actually just here originally. Yeah, it was in this area here. They've removed it, I guess. There definitely used to be a flight path here that's obviously gone now. Now, the other thing I wanted to mention, I'm actually gonna fly back out towards Duskwood for this because I don't want to keep messing around in this area because it's a lot scarier than it used to be. That's for sure. But if you go that way, you end up in Swamp of Sorrows. You see there, Temple of Atal Hakar, or as it's more commonly known, Sunken Temple. And Sunken Temple was a pretty big raid. It was the first raid that had a level range that ended in 60 for most players. Huh. Oh, that's right, because these spiders can hang here and drop down and ambush you. Yeah, I remember that. But yeah, Sunken Temple was the first raid. It was basically a level 50 to 60 raid. It was a really odd raid because it was kind of like Blackrock Spire in the sense that there were two parts to it that you could do separately. So there was a sort of upper area and a lower area that led to the Uranicus boss fight. Uranicus being the name of the main boss in there, but there was another boss in there that was like the final boss of the other part as well that you could do separately. And that was how that worked. Anyway, we're going to go along and around here. I figure I can't do this tour of the Eastern Kingdoms without going to Westfall or Alwyn, so that's why we're going to loop around. Just for the moment. But yeah, so that was a little detour to Karajan, which I tanked Karajan at level 70. That was I for some reason had both a warrior and a paladin, and at various times during Burning Crusade I used them to tank. Basically, I basically had the guild we were in at the time was big enough that we were running multiple Karajan teams, and I ended up being the main tank of one of them. I think on my paladin a lot of the time, yeah, I never did 25-man raiding. Our guild, I think we did do Black Temple, not Black Temple, we did the Blood Elf one that I've forgotten the name of. We did that a few times, and we did a couple of the other ones, but yeah, we didn't do huge amounts of them over the time. Anyway, this is the other end of Duskwood. This is the scary end of Duskwood, because there's an area up here that is... oh, actually, while we're here, I mentioned before we were going to go past another one of these areas, like the one in Hinterlands, and it's actually just here. So, if I can remember where the actual entrance for it is, I think it's just across from this intersection here. This, by the way, is the road to Stranglethorn Vale. Yeah, there it is there. There's the entranceway I'm looking for. This leads up to a really cool zone. Now, I don't believe the Dragons of the Nightmare pop out anymore. But nonetheless, the portal and everything else is still here. And this used to be... You used to actually see, occasionally, you would see 40-man raid groups, both Alliance and Horde, assembling here to take on the huge dragons that used to wander around this area. This is called Twilight Grove. So... the big deal here is not just the portal, but there's actually these massive trees, and you can see that huge tree. I'm just trying to find a better camera angle. In fact, we might just fly up there. But you can see a huge tree up there, and what would happen is this big dragon would pop out here, and just wander around this area yelling obscenities at everyone for days and days. That I don't believe happens anymore, and the portal doesn't actually do anything like that. I can just go straight through it, and it doesn't send me anywhere. You've got a moon well here, I believe this is. This is actually, don't know if it... yeah, I think this is the only moon well in the Eastern Kingdoms now. The Night Elf moon well. Because you'll notice this whole area is actually very Night Elf themed. Which is cool in its own right. But yeah, this was a very Night Elf themed area. And it's one of the portals. The portal ostensibly leads to the Emerald Dream. Which is a zone that's never been added in any significant capacity to the game. In vanilla, there was actually a very large unused map that you could access if you had a program like WoW Map Viewer. That was called the Emerald Dream and contained a very unfinished zone, very large, very unfinished zone of the Emerald Dream. But unfortunately, that was never realized, and we got some Emerald Dream stuff in Cataclysm. Ysera came back and talked about it, and there's like a quest you can do in Cataclysm where you get transported to the Emerald Dream, but what it actually is, you get transported to a sort of alternative version of Moonglade, which is a zone in Kalimdor that we might get to soon. We'll see how we go with that. Anyway, let's keep going this way for the moment and head up along this road. You see the spider webs all through the trees here. That would be really scary to see in real life. Yeah, Ravenhill, which is basically the other town here. This town was destroyed effectively by the undead. But I think the cause of undead here was different to the undead plague or something like that. Ravenhill was an interesting place. For a really interesting reason that I don't believe exists anymore. Hello. You're new. Yeah. There's a few things going on here that are a bit different now to what they used to be. I've actually turned this more into a harbour or a town. In fact, there's a flight path. There never used to be a flight path here. And I do remember them adding this flight path actually, but yeah, there never used to be a flight path. The weird thing this town had was that if you had an ability that Warlocks had that allowed you to see invisibility, oh, by the way, that's a guillotine. If you had the Warlock ability to see invisible creatures, this town was full of ghosts that you couldn't see any other way, and there was no... From memory, there was no reason for them to be there. There was nothing that led to them. There was no quest that led to them or anything like that. They just existed on that side of the town, and it was yeah, really, really strange. Just one of those really strange little things that this game has in some areas. So I love the classic covered over bridge between Duskwood and Westfall here. And this is Westfall. And Westfall is a zone that every Alliance player probably knows like the back of their hand. Because Westfall is pretty much the level 10 to 20 leveling zone for Alliance. And yeah, that's a creature. So, the interesting thing with Westfall, yes, 61. I'm going to take another detour. We've taken a lot of detours tonight, but that's fine. That's fine. We're going to take a detour over here because there's a place over here that we want to have a look at. That is new. That never used to be here. That is damage caused by Deathwing, I believe. It's a big... On the map, it's this area here, the Raging Chasm. They added, I guess, to make Westfall a little bit more interesting than it otherwise would be. But Moonbrook is interesting on its own. Homeless Storm... Oh, they're new. This is not what I was expecting to see here now that I'm here. Homeless Stormwind citizens, transients. This used to be full of the Defias. The Defias were a faction of people who had kind of had their... well, suffice to say that Stormwind didn't treat them quite as well as they could have, and they got very upset about that. Small time hustle. This is all different. Usually this area is full of like hostile Defias guys that you got to fight your way through. Which is fine. Oh, and that's right, this is another area that didn't used to have a flight path, but they added one too. There is, wow, there's a whole outpost here. I don't remember this. This may have been added for Cataclysm though, because I certainly never did this area prior to Cataclysm. But the thing that you have here, the big thing that you have here, as we head down here, is this. And what's in here? Well, that guy for a start, and he's actually a fight you can do. If I keep going in here, you'll notice the music changed, and that's important because this is, to an Alliance player, pretty much a coming of age. It's the Dead Mines. The Dead Mines is the first dungeon that Alliance players generally get to do the first instance. It's interesting in that it has a whole section at the front that isn't instance, which is this section I'm running through right now, and then the instance portal is further down. Normally you have to fight your way through here, but apparently I don't anymore because it's just full of West Plains drifters, and this is really different to how it used to be. You would generally have to fight your way all the way through here. I can't remember where the actual instance portal is. Oh, it's just down here, yeah. Or not. Maybe it's this way. I'm lost. I'm very lost. Oh, no, I'm not. No, I'm not, because it's just over here. Yep, there it is there. And that is the Dead Mines instance portal. So if you want to go to Dead Mines, you go down in there, and you would have fought your way through like a billion people, but apparently that doesn't happen anymore. We just have homeless Stormwind citizens, West Plains drifters and transients all helping mine this place now, I guess. So this is different to how it used to be, quite radically different, actually. Man, my first encounter with a friend who had a higher level character was actually in this area. A friend of mine called himself Galix. Oh, this is still here though. Yeah, the skeletal miners are still here. And this whole section, which led somewhere, I forget where. Or is this new? I don't remember this at all. It goes for a lot longer than I anticipated it going. Yeah, I don't remember any of this at all. I kill a bunch of these by just doing that. Yeah, it solves that problem. But yeah, I don't know what's the deal with all this now. This is all quite different to how I remember it. Anyway, where do I go to get back up out of here? Brainwash Noble. Okay, he's new. I must go this way, I think. No, it's this way. No, I remember now. This is actually, we've got to go up, down to go up. I think. Very lost. Over this way. I hope it's over this way. I've completely forgotten where everything is. Been a very long time since I've been down here. There's a low level there. Yeah, this is the right way. Well, there's even like orphans and stuff down here. I didn't, yeah. Yeah, Defias Hideout, that's what this area is called. I remember it all now. Okay. that was a fun little detour. We're gonna head back out and up the main road here a bit. There's also, Westfall also has a beach full of murlocs, and it's where a lot of Alliance players have their first encounter with murlocs if they miss the couple of quests in Elwyn Forest that involve killing murlocs. You'll first encounter them here, including an elite murloc that patrols the beach called Old Murkeye, who was probably quite a surprise for a couple of Alliance players leveling up. Weren't quite used to elites yet. Good fun. Good times, good fun. Remember that big tree I was talking about? That's it there, in the distance. So originally when you came to Westfall, this area was not built up like this. It was actually quite run down. And again, in Cataclysm, they massively improved it. But yeah, there's more going on here than I remember, for sure. Yeah, Sentinel Hill was basically just that tower and a few ruined buildings. They hadn't built this big wall, which, as you can see, is still under construction. The idea is to create, I guess, a keep here, a big Alliance keep in this area, and they obviously haven't quite finished that yet, but they will one day. And of course, the other thing you've got is all these homeless Stormwind citizens and stuff. The theory behind that is that Deathwing wrecked an entire section of Stormwind, and a lot of people fled Stormwind to come down here because they were basically left homeless when it happened. But things are a bit different now, so... Anyway, that's a nice little nostalgic journey through Westfall, which is a nice little nostalgic area for me. Jansen's Shed was usually the first area. If you came in from Elwyn, this would be the first place you would see the investigator. Yes, this is all a reference to our CSI. And yeah, he has some weird, funny things to say, and yeah, the crime scene alarmo bots, and it has an actual quest for us. Huh. Oh, it's a pet battle quest, yeah, of course. Yeah. And since we're riding this way, we're riding back into Elwyn Forest, which is, again, if you start a human character, you would know this area pretty well. There's a particular creature that we should go pay a visit to, just over here, from memory. He used to hang out over here. I think he still hangs out over here. One of the great entries in World of Warcraft lore. Strongest characters in the game. All around total legend, really. I'm gonna have to stealth just to get near him, I think. Let's see if we can find this guy. He's not here. Yes, he is. I am talking, of course, about Hogger. Hogger is, for most Alliance players, most human players specifically, their first encounter with an elite, and they beefed him up some. They beefed him up a bit in Cataclysm. They made him a level 21. No, I think they just made him a bit stronger, and they made this whole area like this. Didn't used to be like this, but they've made it clear that Hogger is not to be messed with now. Anyway, let's fight Hogger. There we go. Wow. Oh, that's right. You can't kill Hogger anymore. Yeah, so this happens now. I remember now. So you do a whole... Originally, Hogger was just kind of here, and you got a quest, or wanted quest for him, and you'd go and kill him. And then, in Cataclysm, they made it a bit more involved, and they gave him a bit more of a story, which he deserves. And yeah, they take him into custody. What happens then is that Hogger becomes one of the bosses in what was a revamped Stockades dungeon. Stockades being the dungeon inside Stormwind itself. But yeah, that was totally worth it just to see Hogger. There's another place we're going to go to here, and then what I'm going to do is... In fact, what I'm actually going to do is fly back to Duskwood, and we'll proceed from there. But there's one other place in Elwyn that we should go. No, I don't mean Stormwind, which is actually just over there a bit. I mean, let's go over here. Across this bridge. And there's a couple of quests you can do here. There's one about a family whose children are in love with each other, like a boy and a girl who are in love with each other, and the families hate each other, and you have to do a whole bunch of quests so that they can elope and escape. There's a level 15 character. Just leveling up in Elwyn, as you do. Elwyn was the first zone I ever saw in World of Warcraft. And it's funny, because I remember thinking this game didn't look all that great, because I didn't play World of Warcraft until it had been out for a while. I didn't start playing until mid-2005 or so. This is Goldshire, which was the first World of Warcraft town I ever played. And before World of Warcraft came out, I had been... We have to do this. We're gonna do a bit of a ride up here. But I remember being, I wouldn't say underwhelmed by it, but a little surprised at how much less good it looked than Guild Wars, which was the MMO I had been playing a little bit before World of Warcraft. Guild Wars was, for its time, a beautiful looking video game, and even today it still looks, it's held up pretty well. I mean, let's not say World of Warcraft hasn't. I think Blizzard's Blizzard overcame very technical limitations. There it is, there's Stormwind. And we're just going to write in here because there's a piece of music that always plays. We all know what it is. It's really weird that the Stormwind theme became the theme of World of Warcraft. By the way, these guys, if you know your Warcraft lore, you would have, the first time you came in here, you would have absolutely been amazed to see Kurgan Wildhammer and Daneth Trollbane, Ilaria Windrunner especially, and of course, yeah, Khadgar. You would have been absolutely amazed to see these guys here. Yeah, that's Stormwind. It looks like it's been fixed up a bit since Cataclysm too. I'm just noticing, I'm gonna up here. In Cataclysm, these two towers were completely wrecked, but it looks like in Legion they've fixed this all up. Yeah, they have too. So yeah, because these were wrecked for years. So they have actually progressed the world a little bit, obviously since Cata. And I remember them still being pretty wrecked in Mists of Pandaria and Warlords as well, but I imagine it's Cata. Because these statues are all messed up as well. They're all badly damaged and knocked down and stuff like that. And of course the final statue here is Turalyon, who is from the original Warcraft. And seeing as we're right near the Stormwind flight path, what I'm actually going to do is take the Stormwind flight path back down to Duskwood, rather than the Goldshire flight path. Goldshire was another area that didn't originally have a flight path. They added that in later. That's the flying trainer. I don't need you.
What can I get for you today?
Oh, and that's the guy that sells the griffins. I want Dungar Long Drink. Of course I do. Darkshire. Yep. So there never used to be a flight path in Goldshire, which is the town down here. And I guess they just assumed that, you know, it was easier for everyone if that didn't happen. But they decided in the end to do that. One of the things that's really interesting, and again, this was a Cataclysm change, I think, was they made the geometry on the trees a lot more complex. Originally, World of Warcraft tree geometry, and I know it doesn't look that complex now, but it used to be very simple. It used to basically be like all hexagonal shaped and stuff like that. And they at least made it look a bit more natural, a bit more normal, and they did a lot of work, particularly with this tree, because this tree here is meant to be this big, huge world tree, and when they added flying to the world, they had to clean up a lot of the tops of things that you could only ever see from flight paths. And one of those was that tree and a few other bits and pieces. The other thing they changed apparently was the way the I should have just flown to Raven Hill. In fact, I am going to just fly to Raven Hill because this is a neat new feature. I really like this, where you can just request a stop to land at the next available flight master rather than landing at the flight master you wanted to. And I believe, I guess we are going directly to I thought we were going to go via the Raven Hill flight path, but apparently we're not. If I'd been smart, that would have been the flight path I'd chosen instead. Yeah, this is more like what the classic WoW trees look like, although not with all those branches poking through. You have to ride back from Duskwood, unfortunately, because I didn't make that. I should have chosen the Raven Hill flight path, but oh well. Oh well. Oh well, stuff happens. You know how it is. Landing at this flight path brings back memories. Lishim Lean, the flight attendant. And you're raiding Karajan a lot. That's a flight path you get very familiar with, the one from Stormwind there. Anyway, we're going to have to go a long way around down here. There's a really cool questline in Duskwood about finding and breaking a Worgen curse that happens here. And the Worgen is stated to be a different kind of Worgen to the one that became the player race, the Gilneas Worgens. They don't have the sense of control, but it's basically an excuse for World of Warcraft to do werewolves, which, I mean, so is Worgen, but in the more classic horror movie type werewolf sense, is what that's for. It's really cool. Anyway, where are we here? Duskwood's a really foreboding area. I love the low hanging trees and stuff. The fact you don't see the sky very often in Duskwood, like there's a little bit of it there. When you're out in that area questing and stuff like that, you don't really have a lot of sky above you. I mean, Elwyn's the same. Elwyn's very dense, and you don't see a lot of sky in Elwyn, but Elwyn's a lot brighter. You know, it has a much greener, brighter atmosphere. It's not as dark and foreboding as this. But we're heading this way. This is the path that we want to go on. And it's basically the final turnoff we're going to need to make. We're heading into an area that, again, for both Alliance and Horde, was somewhat infamous. When you turned about level 30 or so, you would start coming down this area. So you'd finish off Duskwood, which is a 20 to 30 area, and then you would cross this bridge, and you'd be in what was then called Stranglethorn Vale. Stranglethorn Vale is... Oh, and there's a flight path up there too. Stranglethorn Vale is notorious originally for PvP. It's one of my favourite zones in the game though, just because it looks really nice. And after you've been through that really dark, foreboding Duskwood, you get to Stranglethorn. It's all bright and sunny and tropical, and it looks great. And you get this cool bridge to cross, and then you go down there and you meet... what's his name? The hunter guy that is out and around. He's got a camp down there. I forget his name, but he's down there somewhere. In fact, I think that camp is named for him, isn't it? Nessingwary. Yep, that's it. Nessingwary. Hemmet Nessingwary. You meet him and you're like, yay, it's Hemmet Nessingwary. Everything is cool now. You do his quest and then you just keep going through. And if you head off to... there's a path that branches off. Yeah, there you head into Zul'Gurub. Bambala, I think, is new. I don't think that used to be there. I think it might be a Horde zone. Zul'Gurub was the instance dungeon. And I think it is still an instance dungeon. Zul'Gurub was actually the first raid I ever ran in World of Warcraft, because when I got to level 60 I wasn't in a guild that did a lot of raiding, and we happened to be friends with some guys who were in better guilds, and they were like, hey, we're putting together like an Australian... And that was the other thing, this was back before there were Australian time servers, so we had to arrange raid times. Like I remember my first raid experience, which was after Zul'Gurub, my first 40-man raid experience. I had to get up at like 8 in my raid start time was 8 a.m. In the morning, on weekday mornings, you know. So luckily I didn't really have much of a job at the time, so it was fine. But it was one of those things where getting up at like 7 a.m. to make 8 a.m. raid starts and stuff like that was a part of my life for quite a little while there. And then that guild fell apart, and I didn't have to do that again for a while, because then they introduced Australian servers. So, but yeah, we did a lot of raiding of Zul'Gurub, and it was good because it gave us it gave a whole group of us who otherwise wouldn't have been able to the gear we needed to get into Molten Core, and then Blackwing Lair. Because Zul'Gurub gear was probably actually on a par with Molten Core gear in a lot of places. Not perfectly, not always, but certainly in some cases it would have been. This area is new. This huge hole in the ground that's here now is completely new. And basically it's part of the Cataclysm changes. Deathwing messed everything up here, and there's a big huge hole in the world, and if you fall down there you'll actually die. I know that to be true. I'm just got to remember where the road goes here. I think it just keeps going around here. Yeah, it goes around and up there. That's right. It's a bit messed up because of this area, but yeah. Kind of a shame they decided to do this to Stranglethorn, which is an otherwise really nice, perfect zone, but they did. This is not the right way to go. Oh, that's right. You go along this narrow... Yep. This narrow section here is the intended path. You get onto the Cape of Stranglethorn, which is the lower half of Stranglethorn, because in Cataclysm they split it into two. And it's raining, because of course it is. It's Stranglethorn. I'm going to find the road again. Oh, we've ended up quite a ways off the road. Ah, there it is, yeah. Because normally the road would just go straight through, but of course now that this has all been messed up, And again, I really think that was one of the worst ones they could have done. Like, riding down Stranglethorn Vale was one of the most fun things you could do in the game. Come through this big, huge gate here. There's Gurubashi Arena over there. Gurubashi Arena was originally, I'm not sure it still is, but originally it was a free-for-all PvP arena. Basically, regardless of your faction, if you were in there, you were flagged for PvP against everyone, regardless of faction. And that's what Gurubashi was all about. It was cool. Really fun. But not really taken seriously by a lot of people, and it never really took off as a thing. It just meant if you happen to accidentally be in there, that you could get yourself into some real trouble. Oh, pardon me. That light's new. I don't remember that being there. But yep, this is the road down Stranglethorn Vale to the bottom of the Eastern Kingdoms. And it's one of my favourite paths to take in the game. I've always loved this road through Stranglethorn. Stranglethorn was a good zone to quest in. Like I say, what I used to do when I was leveling some of my lower level characters up, and particularly I remember doing this with both my Paladin and my Warrior when I was leveling those ones up on this server, was that I'd get this character, my Rogue, who was pretty decked out, level 60 stuff, and I'd get her, and I'd park her near where I was leveling, and then I would just, we want to go in here, I'd park her near where I was leveling, and if some Horde guy was giving me trouble, I'd get my Rogue out, and usually that solved the problem pretty dramatically. Welcome to Booty Bay. Welcome to the bottom of the Eastern Kingdoms. This is where our journey's going to end. I love Booty Bay. It's one of my favourite towns in WoW. I love coming here. I love that they finally fixed this. That's cool. It never used to be there. I love that they put that there. That's great. You used to have to go a slightly more convoluted route to get around there. But Booty Bay is basically this game's answer to Asteria in Monster Hunter World, in a lot of ways. Or maybe Asteria is Monster Hunter World's answer to Booty Bay. In either case, that's what this place reminds me of these days. It's a really nice looking zone. It's obviously had some work done, because I don't remember these leaf textures on everything. That's new. And yeah, Auctioneer O'Reilly, because they added these auctioneers. Nickel Gold Rubber, Booty Bay Bruises, everything's here. This is great.
You need something?
You're not in a faction I'm familiar with, huh? Interesting.
See you later.
Anyway, I'm sure everyone else knows what that is. I haven't played WoW enough to know what that is. Anyway, that's the end of this journey, but we're not done. We're not done tonight. I'm going long tonight. I have good reason to go long. I'm gonna park my Rogue somewhere though first before we go any further. I just have to remember there is an inn here somewhere, as I recall. Oh, that's the Griffin Master here in Booty Bay too. I think this is the inn. Oh, oops. This is the inn here. The Salty Sailor, that's right, yep. So I'm going to park my Rogue here for now, and we're going to look out, and we're going to change to a different character. We're not done. I promised us that we would go long, we're going to go long. So, what are we doing now? Just let me check some stuff. There we go. What are we doing now? Where are we? Why are we here? What is this? Welcome to the gates of Ahn'Qiraj. This is the very southernmost point, well, not really the southernmost point, but as southernmost as you need to care about in Kalimdor, the other continent on World of Warcraft. And we're going to ride up Kalimdor before we go to bed. This is my big plan. Silithus, which is the name of this zone, is an interesting area. Ron Ormu is interesting too.
Go with honor, friend.
And Jonathan the Revelator. John the Revelator. So I have a really interesting story about this particular thing. If you don't know what this is, it is the gong that opened this gate over here. this one here, which was blocked by a huge stone path, until someone rang that gong with a scepter. The reason they rang that gong with a scepter was that was because it was keeping the Silithids in. There are 2 raid instances here. You see the raid portal for one over there, that's called AQ25, or Ruins of Anchorage. And up around there is another raid portal, which is AQ40, or the Temple of Anchorage. And they were they weren't actually tier 3, because Naxxramas was tier 3. They were sort of tier 2.5 dungeons, but they were basically the next 40-man raid tier after Blackwing Lair was added to the game. They were also the raid tier that killed my raid guild, because we couldn't kill one of the bosses in AQ40. Yeah, so AQ20 and AQ40 were 2 of the early raid dungeons. Like I say, they were the 3rd ones added, but they weren't technically tier 3. But to open them, every server had to participate in a server-wide event called the Opening of the Gates of Anchorage. I have forgotten where the path goes here. Oh, there it is. Yep. Called the Opening of the Gates of Anchorage. And what originally happened was Silithus was actually a completely empty zone that didn't have a lot in it originally. And then Blizzard revamped it, and part of that revamp was to add quests and stuff in the build up to an event. And the event was that you had to turn in materials and goods to vendors. The more materials you turned in, the more this zone would be prepared for the coming of Anchorage, and the rate that the entire server turned in would determine how long it would be before the gates opened for that particular server. And the end result was that, I don't know what Black Icy Bling is. The end result is that, once everything was turned in, you were ready to open the gate, but something else had to happen at the same time, and that was that you had to have someone on the server with the Scepter of the Shifting Sands, I believe it was called. And the Scepter of the Shifting Sands was probably the most involved and complex quest ever to be incorporated into World of Warcraft. You had to do a bunch of stuff, and almost all of it involved doing it with a 40-man raid team. You had to talk to Nefarian in Blackwing Lair. You had to fight a 40-man world raid boss. You had to look for a fish in the ocean off the coast of Azshara, which is a zone nobody used to go to because there was nothing in it. And that fish was also a 40-man raid boss. You had to fight a world raid boss in Moonglade, which actually tied up the Aranicus storyline from Sunken Temple. It involved talking to Stormo, who at that time was a completely useless NPC dragon out the front of a dungeon that wasn't even open to players at that point. You had to go to an island that was full of level 60 elites and search for a certain thing. There was all of this stuff you had to do this quest to get the scepter. And once you had that, and this is, by the way, is why on most servers only a handful of people got the scepter. Once you did that, you could come down here, and assuming that your server had been good with its turn-ins, you could ring that gong that we saw before. Look at this place. You could ring the gong that you saw before, and it would unlock the gate. And as reward for doing that, 2 things would happen. The first thing was that the entire zone of Silithus would change for about 8 hours. Huge monsters would roam it, massive numbers of elites. It would drop all sorts of reasonably cool loot and all sorts of crazy stuff. I remember, in fact, this character, my mage, that I'm on now. I rode my rogue around before, and now I'm riding my mage, and I'll talk about my mage in a moment, but I just want to finish talking about Silithus. But I can remember riding around here on my mage, and you know, just getting a feel for it, because even at a lower level, we were able to do stuff. Zidormi, by the way, is... and you might have noticed that dragon back there, yeah. Huh.
Safe travels.
I wonder how that relates to, because they're new. A dragon name that ends with Dormu or Dormi generally refers to a dragon that is of the bronze dragons. But yeah, Silithus was certainly one of the more intriguing zones in the game, and that event, that 8-hour event, was just amazing to take part of when the servers weren't crashing all the time, which they did a little bit. But yeah, and the fact you had to ride through Ungoro Crater to get to Silithus. Oh man, oh man. Anyway, you might notice that I am now currently riding a mage, and my mage is fire spec because screw everything, I like fire mages. And I'll just quickly, I didn't get my mage all dolled up for this this journey like I did with my rogue. So my mage is actually wearing a transmog set. The yellow robes she's wearing are robes of the battle guard. She's wearing embroidered ground. Apparently the last time I seriously played my mage was running Zuldrak with her. No wait, Zuldrak is, oh jeez, yeah, wow, okay, yeah, okay, seriously. But yeah, robes of the battle guard, which ironically enough is a drop off one of the bosses in Zul'Gurub in AQ40, and in fact it was the fact that I got those on this character. In fact, the robes of the battle guard that my mage is currently rocking are the robes that dropped all those years ago in that raid. I've got to remember how to navigate Ungoro Crater because this place sucks. Ungoro is I think it's meant to be 50 to 55. There's a few things, there's a couple of quests and stuff you can do here, but it's not one of the more interesting. Hey, it's King Mosh. Don't see him around much. He's rare. I could have a crack at King Mosh. Might drop something cool. Oh boy, he has a lot more health than I thought he did. Why does he have so much health? You know, this could be hard. Or I'm just not doing very much damage to him. I am a fire mage after all, and not doing a lot of damage is kind of fire mage's deal, isn't it? I don't remember how to fire mage for a moment. I've been relearning this because it's really different how I remember. All these free pyroblast procs I definitely don't remember. Are we using Scorch or I don't know. I don't know how to do this at all, to be honest. I think we are going to win though. There we go, that was some good hits. I bet it'd be worth killing. This is the most time I've spent fighting an enemy all night. I just thought we were going to take down the normal elite. He didn't have a rare tag on him. And he dropped crap. Well, that sucks. Anyway, that was completely not worth it. Let's break out our Black War Tiger and keep riding. So yeah, Ungoro didn't used to have a really well-defined road through it either. Which is a relatively new feature. It didn't have these guys flying around either, as I recall. So they're new. Make sure I'm following the road the correct way. Yeah, we are, but this might be a horde town. No, it's not. Good, that was a worry. But it is a dead end. Ah, that's right, I remember now, because there's no actual road through Ungoro. There never used to be. You just sort of have to, yeah, and there is there. We have to sort of work our way around down this way, and we'll come out at that Marshall stand place on the other side, which I do remember that used to be here. Ungoro, I don't think is an Alliance specific zone. I always remember being a Horde and Alliance zone. I did question, I think even on this character I quested in Ungoro, actually, back in the day. It was a cool zone. Had its moments. I liked it a lot. But these days, yeah, it's not a great place. It's cool for one thing, and that is that there used to be a rare raptor mount that you could get here. I don't actually think you can anymore. But there was originally a rare raptor mount here. This is the other place we're looking for there. Yeah, Marshall Stand, that's where I remember this place now. Elf Rogue. I've got one of those. Mine's a lot higher level though. I mostly only play hunters these days. It's weird I'm doing this on characters that aren't a hunter actually, because that's usually what I play. Ah, look at that dinosaur stuck in the tree there. Classic World of Warcraft. Oh, pardon me. Anyway, let's head up here. And the reason I'm riding this particular mount, my Black War Tiger, it was actually the first epic mount I got on this character, because it was originally, you only got this mount from PvP, and towards the end of vanilla, they changed the honor system and everyone was PvPing because there was no other reason to to do anything. Pardon me. There was no other reason to do anything. Because all the raid tiers were effectively irrelevant by the fact that we were all going to be leveling in Draenor in a couple of weeks. Sorry, not Draenor. Draenor, Outland. In a couple of weeks. So we all went and PvP'd. And that's how I got this Black War Tiger. I think these days you can just buy this one. You don't have to do that stuff. I'm not sure it's a PvP reward anymore. But it was back then. Anyway, this is Tanaris. We've skipped kind of a zone. I'll just hang on, let me remember where to go here. Oh, there's a quest there, huh? Yeah. So Tanaris got changed up a little bit. This area got reworked and a few other bits and pieces. Tanaris is basically a big desert that doesn't really have any roads through it. But I think this is kind of the pathway we should be following. Tanaris, I think mostly as a horde player you would go here. I did quest a bit in Tanaris. The main thing with Tanaris is that it's where Gadgetzan is, which is the main goblin, or the main goblin faction town from the Steamweedle cartel. Is the name of the faction, I believe. And this is the main. Gadgetzan is basically their capital. Booty Bay and Ratchet, which are the two other Steamweedle cities, are kind of outposts of their main area. There's also a big, huge ogre city here, so that's cool. We're kind of riding all the way through. And I hope that I can find some semblance of a path to where I want to go. It's fine, it's fine. Yeah, I've got the Tanaris, which is meant to be a huge, basically a huge empty desert. Doesn't actually have any defined roadways or pathways through it. That's fine as well. As long as we're heading vaguely in the direction of Gadgetzan, I don't mind too much, because that's when we'll sort of link up with the roads that we're looking for, so... You're a quest. Huh. And that looks vaguely like Gadgetzan all the way over there, so... well done. Well done us. We made it. Oh, that's right. This is meant to be the road through here, isn't it? These footprint trails that you can see here. Don't think it's ever been satisfactorily explained what these huge rib cages belong to. Huh. Hyenas take down the basilisks. Fine with that. So, the area you can see in front of us here in Gadgetzan never used to be there. Gadgetzan used to just be a town in the middle of the vast desert here. But in Cataclysm they made it so that this area got damaged and flooded, and now Gadgetzan has a beach, effectively, which is what this area is. So that's why this is here. That's all really cool. Gadgetzan is basically the closest thing World of Warcraft has to Mos Eisley from the Star Wars universe. It's pretty much intended to evoke that look and feel, and it mostly does. And that's Gadgetzan. Let's keep going. Well, That's part of Gadgetzan. There's more to it there. Let's keep going. Because there's more places to go. So there's two paths up Kalimdor that we can go. One of them is basically, I guess, the front path, and one of them is the back path. But the change to the area we're about to come into, 1,000 Needles, means that I think we're pretty much going to be locked into going up what I would call the back path. As soon as I remember how to do this. Okay. So this used to be an area called the Shimmering Flats, and it was a big open area, and I seem to recall that it was possible to access a path along here, but maybe I'm very wrong about that. I think I'm going to be very wrong about that. I'm going to have to resort to a flying mount across this section because of what's happened with the 1,000 Needles. This all used to be land, but then Deathwing went and wrecked it for everyone, and he turned it into a big open sort of inland sea, and the whole 1,000 Needles area, you can see on the map there, it's all covered in water all the way up. What I'm going to do is... I don't even know what I'm going to do at this point. Okay, now I can see there's two ways we can go do this. It depends if we wanted to go the back way or the front way here. So the back way would basically be crossing up through here, and this is actually the way I wanted to go, rather than the front way, which is this way here. They both lead the same area, but I wanted to go up the back way for various reasons. Going the back way means missing out on, missing out on, I'm gonna head up here. It looks like we should be okay once we get up here. Yeah, we should be able to ride to where I want to get to from here. But yeah, so this used to be a huge open place with a racetrack in it, and then yeah, it got flooded, and yeah. Anyway, there's a whole bunch of annoyed Naga here now. No, they're not Naga, they're just Cobra type snakes. Nice. Anyway, let's break out the mountain and we'll keep heading this way. Yeah, I hadn't realised until just now just how poorly defined roads in the southern end of Kalimdor actually are nowadays. I didn't realise that it was quite this rough through here. But anyway, yeah, there's two ways up, and one way is to go up through the Barrens, and one way is to go up through Feralus. You can actually sort of go, you can go that way as well. I wonder what the more interesting way to go would be, actually. Whether it would be through Feralus, or whether it would be through the Barrens. The Barrens is interesting now because it's been split into two zones, just like what they did with Stranglethorn. Well, there's a lot going on here. I've never seen this area before. This is all new to me. I didn't ever quest here when I was playing Cataclysm, so I had no reason to come here. Yeah, I think yeah, the Barrens is kind of boring. Let's go up the back way. We'll go up through Feralus. Because Feralus is a zone that's dear to my heart, because it's an area I leveled in on this character, actually. I was leveling in Feralus on my mage, and I leveled there on my rogue as well afterwards. I always liked it as a zone. I know a lot of people weren't as big fans of it as I was, and the way they've changed it in Cataclysm I don't think is particularly great, but... You know, that's the thing. And you see the Barrens over there, you see that huge sort of tangled knot of vines. That's actually a dungeon that I've momentarily forgotten the name of. Oh, what is that dungeon called? Oh, there it is, Razorfen Downs. That's right, yep. And there's actually two dungeons there. There's Razorfen Downs and... Let me grab that part of the map. Razorfen Crawl and Razorfen Downs. And Razorfen Downs is... actually a sort of mid to high level dungeon. It's like late 40s, early 50s. It's got some good stuff in there for characters leveling around that level. I remember running it a bunch of times on different characters over the years, having a lot of fun with it. It's got a really fun sort of final. I wouldn't say last boss. I mean, the last boss is fun as well, but the final area is really fun. It's this big spiral that you go up to get up to the final boss. Big sort of spiral hill that you climb. You're just an airy ace. So we're coming to an area called High Perch, Twilight Airy, and High Perch is also an area here, I believe. Should I be following that pathway, or does it just lead to there? It just leads to there. This is all part of Twilight's hammer, being evil people that they are. And yeah, it's an area called High Perch, which was always here. Always here as part of the Thousand Needles, but of course you couldn't get above it like I am right now. Hopefully I can safely get around that side there. Yeah, I can. That's good, because that was a bit of a worry for a moment. Probably going to be fewer detours and side trips on this Kalimdor ride. I kind of do miss the old Thousand Needles, so I think I liked it as it was. But then again, I never did a lot of questing here because it's mostly a horde area. There are a couple of quests that took you here as an Alliance player, but I don't think they were like, I think they were like Outer Gadget Zan or something like that. They weren't Alliance specific quests. Oh, and there was the whole Shimmering Flats area that you could do as Alliance or Horde, I believe. So, you know, coming across, you can see the big trees there. That's part of Feralus there. The only question I have is how am I going to get from here down to there? That doesn't look like it's a way down. Okay, I'm going to need to fly down there now. Actually, no, you know what? I'm a mage. I can do this. Let's just slow fall. Where we need to get's just there anyway, so it's fine. New Thelinar. It's called New Thelinar because they wrecked old Thelinar. Also, apparently a whole bunch of Grim Totem Marauders are coming here and attacking. Bloody Horde messing everything up. I imagine that if you do quests here, this phases to being a real area, but we're not going to do that. We're just going to keep riding. This looks like the way out. Now we're in Feralus. As I mentioned before, Feralus is a really fun zone. It's another zone that has one of those big portals like we found in Duskwood. It's the third zone that has one of those. I forget what the fourth zone. I think Winterspring might be the fourth zone. No, it was in Azshara. Maybe it's not anymore. Yeah, Feralus has one of those zones in it. And yeah, as you can see, Feralus is just a really thick jungle. The most notable thing about this area is that Feralus has, aside from a horde town right on its main road that I've just remembered exists, Camp Moshaji, I think you can bypass that by going around the top here. So Feralus has hostile dryads. I forgot about those. Yeah, you can go up this way. So yeah, aside from having Camp Mochaje right there, which is a really bad place for a horde town, we won't hold that against them. Feralus also does have... can I get back on the road yet? Is that safe to do so? Quite. Almost, but not quite. Oh yeah, here we go. Yep, there we are. Yeah, anyway, the other thing Feralus has is a dungeon called Dire Maul, which is a 3-winged dungeon. Although, unlike Scarlet Monastery, which is a 3-winged dungeon, Dire Maul's, all 3 wings are actually linked inside the dungeon as well. You usually wouldn't do it that way unless you were doing all 3 wings at once. But yeah, Dire Maul had this thing where all 3 wings were linked together. Dire Maul had a really interesting one. There was a section called, I think we usually call it Damn North. I forget exactly. Let me just zoom in on it. Yeah, it doesn't show it there. I could probably bring it up in the dungeon maps if I... how do I bring up dungeon maps? I've completely forgotten. Let's see if I can bring up the... No, I can't. Okay. Okay, but yeah, Diamol had a really unique... Oh, you know what? There's actually... Isn't there a whole dungeon guide thing that you can bring up? Adventure guide, that's what I'm looking for. Dungeons. It's not showing me Diamol, it's showing me dungeons it wants me to do. Oh, because it's showing me Mr. Pandaria. I want to look for Diamol, which is a classic dungeon. No? Ah, there it is, yep. So yeah, Diamol has... it's not showing me what I want to see, it's not showing me the map. I want to see the map. Ah, there we go. Alright. Yeah, so Diamol has... yeah, this is what I'm talking about, this area here, this first part of Diamol. And you could do what was known as Diamol Tribute Run, where you got a certain bunch of materials together, and you made your way through that section of Diamol without killing any of the bosses, or you could kill some NPCs, but you didn't. You basically tried to avoid killing as many as you could. And Diamol is an instance basically run by the ogres, or Damn North is anyway. And basically what you had to do was get through the whole thing without killing anyone, and then when you got to the final boss, and this road here is actually what leads, that's Diamol up there. When you got to the boss, the final boss of Diamol, you killed him only, right? And there was a guy in there called the Observer, which you might have seen on that map when I was looking at it. The Observer would observe that you killed him and declare you the new king of the, I think they were the Gordok ogres, and then everyone in the instance became friendly to you, and that was really cool because certain of the other bosses that you hadn't killed on your way to Tribute were vendors and a bunch of other stuff. It was a really cool way to do a dungeon, really unique twist on the dungeon. Now the other thing with Feralus, we come up along the sort of eastern coastline for it here, is that there used to be 2 islands off the coast of Feralus, and this one here is labelled Ruins of Feathermoon, and the other one is barely even noticeable on the map. Ruins of Feathermoon, Feathermoon was the main alliance town originally in Feralus, but they basically got rid of it. You used to actually have to catch a boat between here and the island, and it would actually turn out sometimes that it was quicker not to do that. You could just swim across, and it was usually a bit faster, especially if you just missed the boat. It's yeah, so that was that, and then there was the island to the south of that, which does show up on the map. You can see it just there on the map. That island was never really used for anything. You could get a quest there that would, you had to go in a cave and kill a bunch of dudes and do stuff. But in general, there wasn't much there, except for the Scepter of the Shifting Sands quest, where you had to go there to find an item that you needed for that quest. Which can be quite grueling, because the surface of the island, not the cave that you could go into, but the surface area of the island was full of level 60 elites. And very difficult to manage. I think they're all Nagas from memory. But yeah, it wasn't great. So anyway, we're coming down out of Feralus now into another zone that I did a lot of leveling in, or at least will be soon. Campetea might be the other Horde town in this area. Over in there is where the Emerald Portal is in this zone. Around here. In fact, that's it there, Dreambow. Yeah, that's it on the map there. So it's just up. Yeah, you can see it. You can see it from the road here. So yeah, this is another area where one of those world dragons could patrol around. They usually kept to that area there. They never got close enough to the road that it can be a problem for a low level player running through here and getting ganked by like a raid boss. That was never a problem. So usually you'd be coming into Feralus from Desolus if you'd been leveling in Desolus, which I actually did on this character. I did Desolus and Feralus. I came over this side of the world just to do those areas because I didn't really know where else to go at level 30. I didn't want to do Stranglethorn Vale on this character. I did Stranglethorn Vale on my rogue. But on this character I did Desolus and then moved into Feralus. And I think on my rogue I did Feralus as well. Because Alliance leveling back in Classic actually hits a bit of a wall at the late 30s, early 40s. The zones that you go to aren't... Desolus is one. Desolus is a 30 to 40 zone. And then Feralus is a 40 to 50 zone. There isn't a lot in both zones. You can also go to the hinterlands at that level. But again, there isn't a huge amount for you at the hinterlands either. Desolus is nice. I love the sparse look. It's a good name for a zone too, Desolus. But I do know something about Desolus, which is that it has changed in the Cataclysm. They did some work here. Yeah. And the interesting thing with Desolus is that it does have an alliance base, so it's not strictly a horde area either. The other thing that's happened with Desolus, oh, and that's right, Desolus has this area here, and there's a whole section of this zone that's dedicated to, I think, what was originally the Warlock class mount quest. Back in the day when Warlocks and Paladins had their own specific class mounts, which they don't anymore. We also have this area. This is, I think it's called, yeah, Manarok Coven. Manarok being a demon whose place in WoW lore is that he killed Grom Hellscream, not Garrosh Hellscream, his father, Grom. At the end of the Orc campaign in Warcraft 3, or maybe it was in the Frozen Throne where that happened. I forget exactly where, but yeah, it did happen. This is not what Desolus used to look like. The greenery here is a Cataclysm thing. The Cenarian Wildlands is basically an attempt by the Cenarians to... Ghostwalker Post might be a horde town. I think I've gone the wrong way. I think I have to actually go around most of this. Follow what's essentially the old road around this way. I could be wrong, but that's what I think I need to do because I think it's actually an alliance. Yeah, look, it goes around that way. Yeah, and then cycles into out there, I guess. Yeah, we'll see. We'll see. Ah. Yeah, you have all this lush greenery here that's completely new. Never used to be in the game at all. Yeah, I did a lot of leveling in Desolus back before it looked like this. I liked it. Carnum's Glade, there you go, yeah. So there is obviously a Horde and Alliance area in here, because the other place that I've got the name of was the Alliance base in this area, or it was the Horde base in this area. So yeah, we are going to get to go through here and have a good look at it. See, there's cool, huge trees. Narian Circle, yay! Yeah, okay, cool. So this is all here. So I've never been in here before, so this is all new to me. sells pets.
Ah,
Oh,
I've
neat.
been expecting.
She sells pets. Get a good look. That's fine. So is this the way back out, or is this leading us? Where am I going now? Yep. Oh, pardon me. Been talking a lot. Okay, so I should come out to a path here that leads that way. I think also originally De Solis is where Kodos come from. That's the Horde town here. Is, yeah, Thunderaxe Fortress, that's right, yeah. These big dead creatures. Oh, there must have been another path into Carnum's Glade that I didn't take. That's fine. I like they added this to De Solis, so it just mixes the place up a little bit. Makes it a little bit more, less sort of monochromatic. I mean, as much as I like De Solis, it was a very large open space with not a huge amount in it, really. I had a good time leveling here, though. I didn't really mind leveling through it, so... The next zone we're coming up to, though, I didn't level through it all. Didn't really like it at all. And again, it was a weird nothing zone in Classic, this particular zone. As we come around here will be the Stone Talon Mountains. As an alliance, there's not a lot to do in Stone Talon Mountains. It's basically a horde zone. It's an area you go kind of as you're leveling through the Barrens, I think. Or after you've leveled through the Barrens, you can end up coming into Stone Talon. So, I mean, there are quests here for an alliance. There's even there originally wasn't, but I think there is now an alliance flight path here. In fact, there's a couple of alliance flight paths here. But there originally weren't alliance flight paths here at all. It was really odd, actually. Also, canonically, Stone Talon Mountains is where Pandaria is meant to be located, before they added it to the game. In Warcraft 3, it's hinted that it's actually located in this area. But that all changed when they added Pandaria. Trying to work out what the path to get through here will be. Okay, don't miss the turn off. I need to go back because I need to go. Is the turn off? Be just here? Yeah, this is it. We actually need to go this way to work through here. Not towards Stone Talon Peak, which is actually an alliance base now. Which it never used to be. And that's leading to a horde area, isn't it? Yeah, it's leading to Sunrock Retreat. That's not where I want to go at all. Ah, damn it. We will have to go up the other path then. Remember the paths being this well defined in this area. Still, getting lost is part of the fun, really. Just having a look here just to see where the best way to go. Looks like we can cut across this path here, which shows what I will do. imagine is this path here. Yep, this looks like a good way to go. As long as it doesn't lead us into Sunrock Retreat, we should be good. That'd be weird, wouldn't it? Oh, this is going exactly where I want it to. Cool. Yeah, Stone Talon's it's a better zone now than it was, I think. But again, it's not a zone I spent a huge amount of time in. That's Sunrock Retreat down there. About to come down to a road. Ah, yes, Webwinder Path. I remember this part. Okay, now where? That way. Where am I looking to head out? Ah, okay, I've got to go across there. So we've got a bit of this area to go. Yeah, Merkfallen Lake. I do remember this part. This path we want though. Man, I haven't had to spend so much time trying to figure out how to navigate through an area until we got here. Crazy. Oh, and that's right. This is where those the creatures that Horde like to ride live. Hang on, I went the wrong way again. I want to go this way. Yep. Yep. Now we're on the right path. Got a fair bit to go through here. Well, not taking us any less time. Good old Windshear Crag. I remember this area. Down the big steep hill here. You know it's steep when you can jump and take full damage. Oh, that's right. Yeah. I can't remember. I have quested on a character through this area. I'm going the wrong way. No, I'm not going the right way. Yeah, there's this whole thing where the Alliance trying to stop the Horde from destroying all the trees and stuff in this area. The goblins all come here and they're all like, "Hey, it's trees, free resources. Let's just take them all." That's just how the goblins are. That's why they're a Horde, not Alliance. Black Wolf River. I don't remember this bridge. We're about to get into a whole zone of I don't remember though, because Ashenvale changed pretty dramatically with Cataclysm. So we've got a bit to go. Yeah, we're coming up into Ashenvale, which is basically the Night Elf equivalent of Westfall. Wait, no, the Night Elf equivalent of Duskwood, because Night Elf equivalent of Westfall is Darkshore. Which nobody does, because Darkshore's terrible. Yeah, we made it to Talon Deep Pass, that's what we're looking for. And into Ashenvale, which we're not going to spend a huge amount of time in. But Ashenvale is actually a really big zone. It's got a lot in it. It's got changed up pretty dramatically for Cataclysm. They essentially got rid of the Alliance town in here. It's as an Alliance, as a Night Elf specifically, you used to ride all the way down Ashenvale, down Darkshore to get into Ashenvale, questing as you went. It was a good way to pick up everything. We're not going to be going to Astronar though, we're going the other way, although Astronar's literally just there, so... We want to go this way because there's a road, we want to go up around here. I'll just check the map to make sure. Yeah, we're not going to miss it. There was another path we could have taken to get onto this road and come out about here as well. Well, that would have taken us through that Horde zone there. This area is new. This was Deathwing. There's a big fire guy sitting. You can see him up there. Actually, it's in fact, isn't that, yeah, Lord Magmathar? Yep. And he sits all the way up there. There's a level 62 elite that you have a quest for to kill, if you so desire. But he's the reason all this has been. Oh, well, he's the reason all this has been happening here. But how hairy it is. Oh, and for whatever reason, the Horde have been messing this area up, building stuff here. Silverwind Refuge, yeah, that's right. Thunder Peak. Yeah. Oh, and that's right. All these cool water elementals are here to give you quests and stuff to take him down. Remember that now, yeah. I don't think I ever did them, but I just remember coming here and seeing it and thinking it was a cool thing that was going on. I kept hitting the N, which is for talents specialization, instead of M, which is the map button. I've been doing that ever since I started playing World of Warcraft. It's not a new feature. Ah, well. Well, we're nearly at the end of this journey, really. We only have a couple of zones to go. We want to go this way, I think. Oh no, we don't. Not yet. Hang on, let me check. Yeah, no, not yet. This is where we wanted to turn. And head up here. Rainwood Tower is a tower full of dryads, as I recall. Yes, right, Lord Magmathar occasionally just yells stuff across the zone too. Simtrical gets super narky at you if you start fighting him too. And yeah, Rainwood Retreat, which is an area, Wandering Protectors. This is all the Alliance Night Elf stuff, because Ashenvale is basically Night Elf home territory. Before Darnassus, before Teldrassil existed, their main city was in this area too. But that was of course destroyed during the events of the Frozen Throne. I think Warcraft 3, the Frozen Throne. So obviously it doesn't exist anymore. You got this long path out of Ashenvale here. As you go up here and you come out of Ashenvale. Eventually you come out of Ashenvale. Takes a moment. This game has good music still. I love the music in World of Warcraft. Yep, there we are. And we head into Felwood, which is technically part of Ashenvale, but it got corrupted by evil. Basically, demons came here and corrupted it, so the Night Elves are spending a lot of time restoring it. Felwood's actually a fairly large zone. It's a late 40s, early to mid 50s zone. I can't remember where, if I leveled here on this character or if I leveled here on my rogue, but I did level here on one of these two characters. So the main reason I picked my mage and my rogue, I didn't talk enough about this. My mage was actually the second character I ever made well. The first character was a character I didn't really play much. After some friends said, hey, why don't we all play on this server? And I'm like, yeah, okay, that sounds like a plan. And then I leveled this mage to about level 45 or 46, and I kind of decided, nah, stuff, and I'm going to try a different class. And the class I wanted to try was the rogue, so I made for some reason I decided to make a night elf rogue. That was the rogue I was riding up and down Eastern Kingdoms with. Ironically, I chose the rogue for that side and the human mage for this side, but that's fine. And I rode all the way up and down there. And yeah, eventually I got the rogue to level 60. I think I mentioned before that I think I got the rogue to level 60 in an area, but I know where I got the rogue to level 60. It was in Winterspring. I was leveling in an area called Winterspring, which we'll be going through soon. And that's where I leveled my rogue up. and I got the got the mage, and after that I picked the mage back up. I'm like, well, you know, I should keep playing the mage, so I did. After that I kept playing the mage and leveled her up to 60 as well, so I had them both. And strangely enough, the mage was the one the rogue was the one I started raiding with first, but the mage was the one I actually did more raiding with back in the day. When I got into the first guild I was in wanted me for my rogue, and so I played a rogue in that guild, and then the next guild that I raided with wanted me as a mage officer, class officer. I was basically in charge of all the mages. This was back when guilds had class officers. I was in charge of all the mages for a while in that guild, and then that was before Burning Crusade came out, and we all kind of left that idea behind in Burning Crusade, and a group of us moved to a different server. That was when I moved to a different server with a bunch of other friends and stuff like that. So yeah, that was how that all played out. You know, it's pretty cool. I've forgotten how big Felwood is. Like, it doesn't look as big as it is on the map, but when you're actually traveling through it, this zone goes forever. Because of the shape of it, it just doesn't seem as big as it really is. Remember where I was when I dinged this mage 60? I don't think it was Winter Spring. Yeah, this was the second level 60 character I ever made, and then I can't remember if I had more than 2 level 60 characters. I don't think I did. It was level 70 that I had a whole bunch of characters. I had the mage and the rogue, but we both got to level 70. I got a warrior to level 70, I got a paladin to level 70, I got a few classes to level 70 in the end. I got a Death Knight. Oh no, that would have been later. That would have been in Wrath of the Lich King, when Death Knights were a thing. I did get a Death Knight to level 80 though. And the mage and the rogue to level 80. And by that time I had the hunter as well, that I was leveling through Wrath of the Lich King. Oh, I got a warlock to level 70 as well. I had a warlock that I leveled up to level 70. Because I actually remember raiding Karajant with my warlock occasionally. So that did happen. But yeah, mostly it was all characters like this, moving up through, and then kind of after Wrath, I tailed off on keeping those characters levels. When Kata came out, the first thing I did with Kata, because they completely changed hunters in Cataclysm, they gave them focus, and they added the ability for you to be a human rather than a human hunter, which you couldn't have been before Cataclysm, because that was back when classes were restricted by race. And I think they still are, but it's a lot freer now than it used to be. But back then humans couldn't be hunters, and the first thing I did after Kata came out was I bought a character change option for my Lobi hunter that I've been leveling. She was only like level 26 or 27. Because I'd seen all the hunter changes and thought I really want to try hunter now. And so instead of leveling my rogue and my mage to level 85, I actually went with Cataclysm. I went back and started with a hunter that had been, I don't think I touched her in about a year or so. She was like level 26. I hadn't really done much with her in a year or so. And then I leveled her from level 26 to level 85 at the start of Cataclysm. That was the character I mostly played through Cataclysm. Now this is an interesting area. This is Timbermoor Hold. Timbermoor are furbolgs, and they're a particular faction of furbolgs that hadn't been corrupted. All the other furbolgs you encounter in the game are all corrupted by being furbolgs, I guess, by the evil forces that are corrupting everything. But Timbermoors haven't been. And they're a faction you can bring up. But the weird thing with Timbermoor Hold is this is one of 2 places in the game that was named Timbermoor Hold. There was another one in Azshara that nobody really bothered with. It was set up to look like it might have once been maybe plans for an instance dungeon of some sort there, but it never took off. But there's this Timbermoor Hold here, and they have reputation. You can actually gain reputation with them. And there is a reason you would do that. I forget what it is, but there are reasons for doing that. This is Winterspring, which apparently you don't go through Moonglade anymore. Hang on a second. Oh, right, no, of course, because Moonglade actually branches off out of Timbermore Hold. If we'd gone a different way through Timbermore Hold, we would have ended up in Moonglade. Yeah, that's right, I remember now. You don't actually go through Moonglade to get here. These are also furbolgs, but these are hostile furbolgs. Winterspring is also a fairly large zone, and it's probably most famous for the Winterspring Frost Saber, which was an epic mount you could get if you ground a huge amount of reputation very long time with a group called the Frost Saber Trainers. And it was somewhat rare because when World of Warcraft first came out, the epic mounts, which were the ones that had faster travel speed as mount, didn't look like this particular one. They actually look like the normal mounts. They just move fast because Blizzard said we don't have the art for them yet. We're bringing that in, and then they added the epic mount art. This was back when the mount system was completely different to how it is now, and the mount you rode was determined by a bunch of different factors. It wasn't just because you could afford that mount. You could only buy the mounts that were restricted to your race unless you had reputation with the other races in your faction. And there were two different kinds of mounts. There were the regular normal mounts that you had, and there were epic mounts. And the difference was that epic mounts travelled at 100% speed, and normal mounts travelled at 60% speed. Basically, the speed bonus you got for riding them was that. But this area up here, as you go up there, Frost Saber Rock, is where you grind reputation to get the Winterspring Frost Saber. And the main thing with it is that it was an epic mount that had the look of the original epic mounts. It actually has like purple coloured fur. But getting reputation was such a long grind that these mounts were many years very rare. Like you could probably count the number you would see on a server on maybe one hand. Hey, it's Everlook. This is the fourth city run by the Steamweedle Cartel. It's basically their mountain city in Winterspring. Winterspring, incidentally, is all snowy because it's actually the foothills of a big, huge mountain that we're going to be going up shortly called Mount Hyjal. Mount Hyjal is infamous in World of Warcraft for being an area that was locked off to players for many, many years. It was promised at the start as a raid zone, and for many years the zone existed in the game, and players discovered ways to get in there and walk up it. The reason it was, I guess, pardon me, the reason it was so hyped, of course, was because the final mission in in Warcraft 3: The Frozen Throne was the Hyjal mission where Archimonde came and essentially tried to destroy a mountain. It was pretty popular in World of Warcraft, and players discovered that it was possible to actually enter the Hyjal zone. It was all there, it just wasn't populated with anything. And players discovered they could enter the Hyjal zone. But when they got to the top of it, there was a sign that said under construction on it. But there was also a 40-man raid portal, the original sort of green type raid portals, buried in a cave up here, or up near where we're going now. There was a raid portal, but then in Cataclysm they opened Hyjal up so that everyone could access it, which is how it is now, which will be the version of it that we get to go and see as soon as I remember how I get across this huge gap. I don't believe has a bridge. Oh gods, how do I do this? There used to be a way to just ride around this, but we live in an age where I can just cheat and use a flying mount. Forget exactly. I think you go around that way maybe to get across Frost Whisper Gorge originally. The path does continue around here. I just can't remember how you get. Yeah, it does, yeah. Is what I'm looking for. Yeah, so I forgot that you had to get around Frost Whisper Gorge. I don't remember being a huge hole in the ground though. You eventually come into this area, and this area was where the hidden instance portal was. It was in a cave in this area, Dark Whisper Gorge it was called then. Back then it was part of Winterspring, not part of Mount Hyjal. It's only since they opened up Mount Hyjal in Cataclysm that it's been part of the Hyjal zone. But somewhere in here there used to be a cave. I think it's probably completely gone now actually. But there was a cave with an instance portal that let you access here, and of course when they originally added Hyjal to the game it was as a 40-man raid instance that recreated, was part of the Caverns of Time dungeons that recreated classic bits of World of Warcraft lore. I can't remember which way to go here. Also apparently doesn't matter, but we'll go this way because the other way looks more dangerous. We're nearly finished. We're going to be nearly finished the stream soon too, which will be nice because then I can sleep. Yeah, we're just going up around here. Apparently I never fully explored this zone on this character either, so it's nice to finally get that. Which is odd because I have Flamewood Hippogriff on this character, which you can only get by doing quests in this zone. Yeah, this area is all corrupted because of demons. That would have been why. Not sure if this is the right way to go or not. Yeah, it looks like it is. This might have been... This here might have actually been the cave where the original instance portal was. Yeah, Dark Whisper Pass. Oh, it's one of those stupid caves that makes you dismount as you go through it. That's really annoying. Hey, Mage Blinking works now. Yay. Yeah, so Mount Hyjal had a raid in it called Firelands. Well, the full version of it did anyway. And that's why this area is all on fire. We can just jump through that without taking damage. Yeah, we can. The enemies are going to be aggressive towards us here because we're not... we're their level. Everything here is our level, so we're probably going to take a bit of damage as we go through here. Hopefully we can get through it. It won't be too much drama. But yeah, this area is actually scaled to our level because it's Cataclysm content. It's probably fine though. Ward over there having a crack. But yeah, the end result of all this was that this area is very much on fire. I think in the original version, the version that was in vanilla, that Blizzard didn't really want people getting to, this area was quite a bit different though. It's only the later areas that are similar. I know there was an area that was like all corrupted and demony and stuff, but I don't remember much more about it. But Firelands, the dungeon they added, the Firelands raid dungeon, had Ragnaros, who was obviously the original World of Warcraft raid boss. It had a second version of him where he'd actually come out of lava and walk around. He had like feet and stuff. It was really strange. The theory being that the version you fought him in Molten Core wasn't him at his full strength, and this version was. Yeah, Hydral's pretty big in terms of Warcraft lore, partly because of what happens at the end of the Frozen Throne. Sanctuary of Malorn was definitely an area in the classic Hydral. I never actually made it into classic Hydral myself, but I did see it. Tortella. Oh, there's some cool quests with Tortola. You actually free them. That big turtle over there, you actually free it. It's really neat. Yeah, when they added Hydral and Cataclysm, I think it was actually the better of the two Cataclysm starting zones, which was Hydral and Twilight Hinterlands was the other one. Twilight Highlands or whatever it was the other starting zone, and then you would move on to Uldum. Of the two zones that they added, I think this was the better. No, that's right. The other one was Vashia. That's right. You had the Vashia, the underwater zone. Oh boy, that was not a great zone. Of those two, so it was you either had a choice of Hyjal or Vashia as the starting zones, and Vashia was Hyjal was the much better zone. Vashia was not great. Blackhorn's Penance, yay! Rim of the World, yay! You'll find out why it's called that in a second as we come up through here. You can see that this is later than the regular because the ground clutter here looks a lot better than it did in other parts of the game that we've been through. This is the correct way to go. Maybe not. Hang on a second. Might need to just make sure I'm going the right way. I was not going the right way because this is the right way here. Yep. Oops. Oh well. Not the first time we've done that. Oh, maybe that was the right way actually. Yeah, I think that was the right way to go. Oops. Oh well. I have to go back up that way. Ah well. Can't win them all. And nearly at journey's end. Been a pretty epic journey. I've never done both continents like this in a single sitting. Oh no. Why? Make myself invisible and hope that I can find a spot to mount. There we go. Hopefully we don't get dazed again. That was rough. Anyway, yeah, we need to come up around here. Yeah, we haven't been dazed. Oh, dazing is such a dumb mechanic. Oh, it's happened again. I don't know what else I can do. Cross and over and run. Else for God. I can't blink. I can't blink yet. Wait. Might die. Nope, we got away. Oh boy, this is rough. Can't invisible and I can't blink and I might die. Can't bandage either. Oh no. Yeah, got out. Well, that restores no health. Oh boy. I can't use another one for like a minute. Oh, you know what I can do? This would work. Being a mage. Oh no. Oh no. Oh no. Oh no. No. Get me away. I wish I could mount. I can't mount. Oh no. Oh, everything's hitting me now. Oh no. That worked. It's useful. Can I blink? I can blink. Oh, blink failed me. As it always does, blink failed me. Where am I? Right about Viana. Oh, well. To give you an idea of where we are. This is one of those ones where when you die, You get to fly to get back to where you were. Or weren't we just here? Yeah, we just come around here. It's just over here. Yeah, we're nearly there. That last part got rough. Try and resurrect here, and then hit it. Then mount up immediately. We should be able to go safely from there. Yep. Nice. Sneak past this guy. There we go. And we're through this guy as well. There we go. There we go, we got away. Not gonna catch us now. Neither is this guy, because I'm gonna sneak past here. This is the correct way to go. Yes, the correct way. Yay, finally. Oh, geez, that was rough. Just keep walking. We got this. Uh-oh. Uh-oh, uh-oh. Keep running. Geez, that skill I get there, that auto rise is actually really strong. Really pleased with that. Need to eat up. Too much health I can get back from this quickly. There we go. That's what we needed. Start mount, and we should be good for the rest of the way, because we don't have very far to go. We don't have much to go at all. Nordrasil, that was the name of the tree, the world tree, which itself actually there is actually an Yggdrasil, which is the original world tree as well. Nordrasil was grown from it, or grown from a seed of it, and Yggdrasil was the tree at the Well of Eternity, which is where the Maelstrom is in Warcraft now. But Nordrasil is Nordrasil was the tree that Archimonde effectively killed, and Ysera's basically made it come back to life again, I think is how it is now. You can see it there. And they took a seed of Nordrasil and grew Teldrassil. They did that in the ocean so they could have it separate from Kalimdor. So that's how Teldrassil, which is where Darnassus is. That's how that came to be. Anyway. Yeah, just about home. And here we are. Nordrasil in, which I can apparently still be mounted, but I'm not going to be. There she is, Ysera, and that's kind of where we're going to leave our journey for now. So that's both continents in World of Warcraft, the classic continents, travelled up one side and down the other, or down one side and up the other. Oh boy, that was quite an effort. Oh. I'll leave the stream there for now. I had a lot of fun. I'm pretty happy to have played World of Warcraft for a little bit. Both on stream, and just come back to it for a bit on this weekend. I'm probably not going to pick up Legion though, probably, not Legion, Battle for Azeroth. Probably rather play Classic when that finally comes out. That's what I'm really looking forward to, because yeah, I'm not sure the new expansions have much in them for me these days. But yeah, we'll see how we go. Anyway, I'm going to leave the stream there for now, so the graphics will probably freeze up as I alt tab out, but that's fine. But yeah, thank you all for watching, and I will see you all next time.